What is happening, everybody? Welcome back to another show of Tour Life. You got Brody and Yuli as always, and we have a great show for you tonight. We are going to be talking about what happened at the Dynamic Disc Open last week. We've got Parker and Hailey, both the winners from last tournament, both going to be on joining us later today. Got lots of questions to ask them. Going to be interested to hear what went down with just their mentality, because there was some interesting plays and some interesting it was a close tournament. It was not a blowout by any means. So lots of questions there. What's the outrage with Emporia Country Club? Tons of people very upset with the lack of fans at the tournament, the actual course itself. We'll dig into that. Then we got to talk about, we have a lot to talk about. We've got the Des Moines Challenge. We are currently in Indianola, Iowa, baby. Where are you at right now, Yuli?
I'm in Iowa for sure. I'm actually at Titan Disc Golf Shop, the Titan Disc Golf Shop. Matt Schlabach was nice enough to host a signing for Discraft tonight. And so I just got done with that at 7. I got out of there a little earlier, and I'm in his office. He let me use his office to do the tour life. So shout out to Matt for hooking it up this week.
Very nice. I am currently at a sick farmhouse, which is the Airbnb for Jomez this week. Yuli got me linked up with them because I was like, bro, my internet at my hotel is super trash. So shout out to Jomez for letting me come in here and use their internet. Big plus for you guys. So I'm not going to be like a robot talking and going in and out. We also have to talk about the President's Cup. Teams were just announced. I hit up Nate Sexton, got some words from him. We also have a Euro Tour, the Euro Tour Paul Macbeth update of Konopiste. Am I saying that right? Konopiste?
That's pretty close. Konopiste.
Konopiste.
No, I think it's I call it Konopiste like you. So I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's how it.
And then
I feel like it is.
And then we got an Aaron Gossage hot take, which you were a part of. So we'll get into that as well to kind of wrap up the show. So without further ado, let's jump in, man. Let's talk about DDO. What happened with you out there? How was your tournament?
Man, it was crazy. It was, I felt pretty confident going in, game's kind of trending in the right direction. And I just it seems like every week got off to a pretty slow start. I shot a 3 under first round, which wasn't that good, but it was also like the first round. And that was like when everybody was filling out the course and how it was playing. Left a few shots out there. Second round played pretty solid, shot a 7 under. Maybe a 6 under.
I saw
6
that.
under.
I think it was 7. Unless you bogeyed the last hole.
No, I did bogey the last hole, but I think I did shoot a 7. You're right. And
okay.
And then final round, I shot a solid round of 5 under, and I can get into how that happened. I was looking at the scores going in the last few holes, and I saw that I was 2 strokes in the cash. And 16, 17, 18 are pretty tough, And so I made the island on 16, laid up like a 35-footer, put it just outside the circle, like with a little wind on 17, laid that one up. And 18, I had about a 45-footer, and I laid that one right up. So could have been a little better, but I was like, I'm 2 strokes in the cash. I'm not ruining this. And it was funny. This was the best putting tournament that I've had, maybe top 5 in my career. I made every inside the circle putt. I landed just inside the circle probably like 10 or 15 times. So it was a good putting weekend. And on the last hole, I'm like in the fairway and I throw the hyzer. And I'm like, that's going to be circle's edge. I was literally hoping it was outside the circle so I could just lay it up, because I'm like, I'm going to have to run it if it's in the circle with my 100% C1 stats or whatever. But luckily I was just outside. I gave it a little bit, but nothing crazy. And I ended up getting 35th place. So it's actually solid for me. And it's also tough because I'm like, I still have the mindset of like, I want to win every tournament. I want to go for every shot and all that stuff. But the last few weeks I've been kind of taking a step back and realizing you have to build to that with some solid finishes, and cashing on the tour is solid,
Big.
and that's something that like I'm not used to and not used to saying. I've been pretty vocal about like, no, I run everything. I want to, have my best possible finish. And I've been trying to like be open-minded about it and realize like how good the tour is now, and that making the cut and getting a little cash is so much better than not. And, and so like the difference between 35th and 25th
exactly
it's not that big, but the difference between last cash and not cash is really big. It really is. And we'll get into some more stats that I came up with. I asked Sat Mando to give us some stats about like the tour, because we mentioned last week that we wanted to update people on where like the standings were for the tour championships and touring cards and different things like that. But we'll wait till after this discussion to get into that. How did your week go?
Going into this tournament, I have to say this was the most confident I've been at winning. Like, there's definitely been some tournaments where I was like, man, if I have a good week, I could contend, I could maybe win. But this was the first time that I really felt that going into it, I was like, I have a really good chance at winning this tournament. And to see kind of, and maybe I was a little bit too overly confident. Maybe I put a little bit too much pressure on myself to where, I would make a mistake, because really how my rounds went is I would have great holes and I would have terrible holes. I ended up taking 1 quad, 2 triples, 2 doubles. And then I think 1 bogey is what I had. I played hole 13, 8 over par. I played hole 1, 3 over par. And I ended up shooting 5 under for the entire tournament. I was getting lots of birdies out there. I didn't really putt the disc that well, but I was still throwing so well off the tee. It's just I had a couple of really bad shots. Hole 13, final day, I clipped the trees on the right, go OB. I clipped the trees again on the right, go OB. And, I throw my upshot, I throw my tee shot again. And now I have a putt for, triple, and I miss and I get a quad. So it's one of those, it was a weird one for me, because I felt like my forehand had never been better. I ended up birdieing hole 2 of the 3 rounds. I threw inside the circle all 3 rounds on hole 3. And I got hole 4, 2 of the 3 rounds as well, all sidearms. And it just felt really good. I felt like I could really attack. And there was a couple holes that just really, really stumped me. And I just played poorly on. And, you were talking about the margins being so thin. I can look back and see, how I did at DDO last year when we were playing in 40-mile-per-hour winds. It's kind of crazy to look at my scores last year in 40-mile-per-hour winds and my scores this year. They're not that much different, and that's kind of the sad thing is like my overall score is about the same, and the wind was really, really down in Emporia. It was really good scoring conditions. So to me, it's eliminating big mistakes, eliminating compounding mistakes. But again, I guess you could leave, because I ended up missing cash. Was never really close to even getting in the equation for cashing, but you can take that tournament and leave and be like, man, I'm like not playing well right now. Or you can take it away and look at the bright spots and be like, all right, you have a 400-foot hyzer forehand now. You have a good jump putt from inside of 60 feet. You're able to throw your backhand power shots are pretty decent. My up shots were getting better. Like, there are positives to take away from last week, and that's what I'm kind of doing going into this week. But I gotta tell you, I got humbled a little bit because I was so confident going into this tournament, and I just got slapped up and down. And I think I just let that get to me. This is a course. The way the course is set up, you can't make mistakes. Like, you can't take numbers out there. It is a all gas, no brakes type of course, and we'll get into that a little bit. And, every time I felt like I missed a birdie putt or I took a bogey because of a dumb error or I took a triple, it just hurt so much more. So that's kind of where I'm at.
And it's getting to the point on tour where it's never been like this. And to where you can be playing, and if you take a triple bogey, you're not going to win. It's going to be a very rare thing for you to even get like a top 10, like a triple bogey is 3 shots, 4 shots normally with how other people play. And 4 shots is a big spread these days, is a big, huge spread. So, it's like traditional golf. There's crazy stats to where like if somebody has a triple bogey, they're not going to win the tournament statistically. Like it's almost impossible for a lot of tournaments. And sometimes, there's anomalies with that, but that just tells you how the game's evolving and how many good players there are to where people are taking advantage of those. There's going to be 20 people who gain 4 strokes on you in one hole. You can't have that.
I started one of my rounds, OB right. Then I threw from like the sidewalk over there, OB left. Then I was 450 feet away, threw a power hyzer. Wasn't enough hyzer out of my hand. It flipped up to flat. It went like 200 feet long past the basket, like past the road. So I went OB again. I started my final round throwing my first 3 shots out of bounds. So very, very hard to like, but then I ended up birdieing like the next like 4 holes or something. So like, it was one of those where I was proud of like, I didn't give up, right? I didn't just like put in the towel and be like, oh man, this sucks. I got a lot of birdies all 3 rounds, got a lot of birdies. But like I said, those big numbers, I got to try to figure out a way of like getting rid of those. And then we'll be talking. So,
right.
All right. Enough about us. Let's get into what went down on the leaderboard, talk about some of the big storylines. So looking at MPO first, we have Parker Welck, who will be joining us here at the top of the hour, taking it down, shooting 31 under par, very consistent, 57, 58, 55. I don't know. Was it the final day that was a little windier? There was one day that had a little bit more wind. Okay.
Final day. Yep.
But the first 2 days, it was like 5 to 9, and then maybe the final day got up to 15 at times, but it was definitely not the usual win that we see in Emporia. That's why I think scores were as good as they were, because I do think some of the changes with the course made the course actually harder than easier for the most part. But when the wind is down, that course just really doesn't have any sort of defense, and people are just attacking it left and right. We see Calvin back on the podium, finishing in second. Evan Smith, man. Evan Smith has been sneaky up there the last couple of tournaments. So another good finish from him, tying third with Matteo and Alden Harris. Let's quickly, I want to kind of talk about Calvin a little bit, because obviously we'll kind of talk about Parker once he gets on here. But Calvin, he missed a couple really like crucial putts in that final round. Hole 1, kind of a nervy putt, didn't really get his normal pop, goes cage. And then hole 14, which was really like in my opinion, where the tournament just got flipped upside down. 3-shot swing between Parker and Calvin. Parker jams like what would you call that? 50 feet from the top of the hill?
Yeah, that's about right. Yep.
Jams a 50-footer for eagle. Then Calvin couldn't have been more than 25 feet for birdie. Another one just kind of 20, 22, something like that, clanks it off the basket. 3-shot swing right there. Parker ends up taking a 1-shot lead. Is this any sort of worrisome? Should we have any sort of worries with Calvin? He did have a bad putting tournament, or I guess one of the rounds in Portland, he putted really poorly. Is this something that we should be concerning with ourselves looking forward? Or is this just another kind of, just had an off day, missed a couple kind of gimme putts, but obviously being the only one that really was able to contend against Parker that day?
Yeah, I mean, he lost by a stroke, so it wasn't like, he got blown away and he was just doinking all kinds of putts. He made some good ones the final round, and I really think the pressure that Parker put on him down the stretch is the reason for those putts. I mean, that's what happens. I think it's a different atmosphere, especially with Parker, because nobody knows what his game is or what he's like. And then all of a sudden, this no name is on the lead card and obviously playing better than everybody. And at that point, you're waiting for him to make the rookie mistake. And then he jams an eagle in your eye, and you're like, you know, you're kind of flipped around. I believe that if it was Ricky in Parker's place and Ricky makes that putt, Calvin has no problem with it. But I think because of the situation and the way that it was happening, I really do think it kind of got under Calvin's skin, and it's a situation that he never had to deal with before. That's what I believe by watching it.
Yeah, it's an interesting point of just like, it's a different story having, you know, a top player going toe to toe against you, and then having like an underdog type of player where everyone's expecting you to beat them. And it just never happened. Right? Like Parker just never, he makes that big mistake on 13. We talked about it. Like that tee shot. I wish there was a way, and we'll get into this a little bit, but some of these holes, it's very hard to kind of show like the trouble. And that tee shot on 13 is a nervy tee shot, and he clips the trees, goes OB, advances, and then, you know, gets up and down from there to take bogey. But I'm sure Calvin in his head is like, okay, here it is. Here's the chink in the armor. I just got a stroke on him. And then Calvin throws into the tree on 14, goes OB, terrible reaction, very unlucky, but to still make bogey there. And then you see, you know, Parker go sidearm, eagle. I agree with you. I think if it was a Ricky, if it was Paul, if it was eagle, it might be a little bit different than having this kind of, you know, up and comer, if you will, just playing lights out.
Well, put yourself in this situation, smaller tournament that you like a B tier, you go play, and you're the highest rated player, highest ranked player in the tournament. And you're playing against this guy who's just playing lights out, who you've never heard before, doesn't have any wins. And obviously they have like the lead card jitters, but they're birdieing. And you're like, it's okay, a matter of time, and I will get the lead. And this is I've seen this story, you know? And then you get the lead, and all of a sudden the guy has an eagle putt, and you're like, there's no way this guy makes it, right? He makes it, and then now you're stuck with the 20-footer, and you're like, what just happened? You know? And I think the tournament was won on 17, honestly. All that stuff is whatever, but then dude, that drive on 17 that Calvin had, that's his like bread and butter. Low ceiling, that was like the moment, you know, push it way down the fairway past Parker. Parker then has to have that crazy shot underneath the tree branches or whatever, and the pressure's flipped. But because he threw it in the dirt, you know, it takes birdie completely out of play. Mm-hmm. And then Parker throws that great shot to 2 feet. That's when I was like, oh, this is it. This is it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's when he kind of put the stamp on it. And it was just, I don't think people talk about momentum as much as we should. And I was talking about this on Jomez when we were doing the coverage, that if you can make some putts outside the circle and get the crowd on your side, the momentum in sports when the crowd is rooting for you because you're doing something special compared to where you're just boring playing, like getting birdies. Oh yeah, like when Ricky makes a 40-footer, it's exciting, but he has to make it from 80 to get the crowd on his side, you know, because they're so used to it. Parker, he starts making them from like 40 feet, and his reaction is the same as the crowd. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing. You know, like, this is crazy. I just made it again type thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's in sports, I feel like is highly underrated, and we don't talk about it as much in disc golf, is getting the crowd on your side to where that little extra adrenaline and momentum gives you confidence of like, oh, maybe it is my weekend type thing.
Yeah, and the confidence too, you know, him starting off the way he did that final round, I think also helped. It would be interesting to kind of see what happens if it was like windier and more difficult, right? But the way the course is set up, like you have to go out there and get birdies, especially on the front nine, and he did. So we'll get more into Parker obviously when he gets on here. Another person, a couple more names I want to throw down on the leaderboard. Ricky Wysocki, comes back, tries to defend. Obviously, he didn't win Worlds at Emporia, but we also played Jones. Comes back to try to defend DDO at just Emporia Country Club, which he has played really, really well. Doesn't get it done, but still has a good showing. 6th place, 6 shots off the lead, still a good showing. And it's what we've been always saying. It's not what it used to be. You can't take these guys and just outside of maybe Calvin, there's not really a sure bet of just top 3, top 5. No. It is tough. He ends up tying with Ezra Robinson, who has a great finish. And then you've got Benjamin Callaway, Mason Marchbanks, Emerson Keith, and Joel Freeman all finishing out the top 10. Emerson, a couple good finishes for him this season. Same with Mason Marchbanks. Not a lot of people know him. Kind of up-and-coming kid from just south of Dallas. Plays a lot of local events in the Dallas area. I played against him at some local events. Really solid game. And, he was kind of clicking on all cylinders this week as well, shooting well out there. So good to see. And a couple other stories a couple other names I want to throw out there. Silas Schultz, man. Let me just tell you about this. Not a lot of people, I don't think, were talking about him in the final round. I mentioned that Aaron Gossage, I think, is the best player right now, tee to green. I think Silas has an argument that he might be the best off the tee. This was his final round. 83% circle 1, 94% circle 2. He only missed hole 3, which is 466 downhill. It's one of the tougher holes to get. He ends up missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 putts inside of circle 1.
Are you kidding me?
Shoots 6 under. Misses 8 putts inside of circle 1. Shoots 6 under. Misses 2. The only 2 circle putts. He only missed circle 2 once. Made circle 2 twice. Missed both of those. And then other than that, he was in circle 1 or parked and ended up missing 8 putts, shooting 6 under. What? Like he could have had a nuclear
I've never seen
round.
that. Yeah, I've never seen a stat like that.
Ridiculous. So someone to look out for. Obviously, he had a really good finish in Champions Cup, which is another course where you kind of have to make sure you're getting off the tee really well there. So his game.
What was the week after Champions Cup? He also had a good finish, I believe.
Yeah, he's played really well this season. Like he's turning. He throws the disc really well. He's just kind of got to figure out his putting a little bit. Chris Dickerson comes back. We haven't seen him. Obviously, didn't go to the West Coast at all. Comes back with a tied 17th, shooting 20 under. I don't really if there's really like any notable names that like missed the cut.
There is.
It's not really.
Gannon
Burr is that the one? Gannon Burr shoots 72, shoots a 72 final round, 5 over to miss the cut by 2 shots. Yeah, there's a lot of good players though. Garrett Gerthy, Chris Clemens, Mason Ford, Nico, Andrew Marweed. I could see how Gannon obviously is probably the top one out of there. Adam Hammies coming off of his Portland win misses the cut. You don't have a good week, you miss the cut. It is what it is. Gannon, I think, would be the surprising one there. Not sure what happened. I know Ezra played with him the final round and was saying that he just wasn't able to really control his disc off the tee. And of course,
he was like that, in top 10 after the first round, and he missed the cut.
Yeah, of course, like that though. If you can't control your disc off the tee, you're gonna just accumulate strokes in a hurry.
Seriously.
All right. Another last person, Tristan Tanner. Did he end up making cash?
He did.
He did, right? Okay, yeah. Almost on the number, actually. Shoots a course record, 12 under out there. Ends up getting 2 pars, 2 bogeys, 14 birdies for 12 under. Wow. Crazy round. Crazy round. He also, if you remember, Worlds last year, he was in the B pool. So we all played Jones first in the A pool. He played in the B pool. He also set the course record the first round and was like in the lead or like a lead card or something after the B pool. So he took
third at Worlds.
He's played really well at Country Club. Like that's a course that he plays really well at. And man, that's a crazy round, 12 under. All right, a couple other stats here. Parker Welck, we've got lowest ranked player to win an elite or major since 2005. So he joins a list of Christian Dietrich, which I think we saw him out playing the Zootown Open, Josh Anton, Colton Montgomery when he won Waco, and then we have Connor O'Reilly when he took down Delaware in 2021. He was 72nd, was where he ranked in the I think this is a Stat Mando ranking. 72nd in the world, which to me seems a little bit better. I know there's a UDisc one where he's like 100 and something. I think this one's a little bit closer. I think he was 112 in UDisc, and then he jumped up 30 to 39. I think that's a little ridiculous. I don't think he was 112. But the other crazy stat for him, he was averaging 51st. Like for 51st place was his average place at elite events this season. So it's not like he was, it wasn't like he was popping off at events and it's like, when is he going to get one? When is he going to get one? And we're going to talk about, that's a question I have for him. Like how does that work? Like going from a season where it's like, you haven't really had the greatest start of your season. How did you have that confidence going into that final round? Like, oh no, I deserve to be here.
This year it's been happening all the time though. We have Emerson winning, same kind of deal. Not playing well.
Emerson almost won Worlds that one year. He has a little bit more experience in the back of where it's like, I've done this before. I've been in this situation. Parker to me just seems like a crazy one because that was the first time he's ever been filmed, I think.
Yeah.
That's nutty. Anyone else you want to talk about MPO? Anything else on the DDO side worth mentioning?
No, I was going to mention that DDO is a crazy place because I forgot what year it was, but it was a year that 2015 when Macbeth was like pretty much unbeatable the whole season. He got beat by 3 people or something the whole year at Elite Series. And one of them was Cam Todd at the DDO Glass Blown Open at the time. And Cam Todd, I asked Stat Mando what Cam Todd was ranked, and he was ranked 40th, which, it was a pretty high ranking for him back then. And he was like, 40 something when he won. So DDO kind of has a history of putting out underdogs.
Little like Waco too, right? Like Waco always has some interesting champions. All right, let's switch over to FPO real quick. We have Hailey King taking it down, shooting 19 under, going into a playoff with Holland, and really ultimately just having a solid game. She didn't start off too great, shooting 67 in the first round, but followed it up with 2 62s in round 2 and round 3, and really didn't look like she was out of control at any time. She's looking like she's having fun on the course. And with Hailey, it's always just seemed like more on the mental side of things. If she can get her mind right and stay committed, it's like her game, backhand, forehand, her putt, she has such a solid game. And if she's able just to kind of stay composed, to me, she's always seemed like that player of like, she has such a high ceiling.
Yep. No, we definitely talked about her a lot on, this podcast. And I totally agree. I'm surprised when she's not in the top 4 every single weekend. I'm so surprised. And mainly for me, it's because of the putt. The putt looks so good.
Gosh.
It really does. Like it to me, her putt visually is the best putt in the FPO division. Even for me above Tatar, because of the length and the effortless length that she can do it from. I mean, it looks right now, Tatar's making everything, it seems like. But I don't know, just the motion, it just looks like it has a little more power and a little more like integrity.
Yep. Again, we'll kind of get a little bit more into Hailey, her final round, all that when she comes on with us later. Holland Hanley, man, she is starting to, I mean, you got to think that she is starting to be like, when is it going to be my freaking time? She's been so close, it seems like, at so many events this year. And the interesting thing about this tournament is it didn't seem like it was the sit back, let me play safe, let me wait for someone to make a mistake. That's what it always kind of feels like, especially when Kristen's got a couple shots a lead, 2 or 3 shots lead in the final round. She just plays kind of safe. She's like, I know the other people in the field, they're going to press, they're going to 3-putt, they're going to throw a B. I can kind of sit back. That was not the case here. I mean, Hailey and Holland were going toe to toe the entire final round, and there was no sitting back waiting for the other person to make a mistake. I mean, you can just look at the final hole. Holland literally eagles the final hole to push it to a playoff. I mean, it was who wants it more, not a who's going to crack. And to me, that's so much more fun watching disc golf, not seeing like someone like miss a putt from 20 feet and you're like, oh no, like we're seeing good disc golf. And I think we saw a lot of good disc golf from a lot of different players this tournament, and it just made it for a way more exciting finish to me. That's what I like seeing. The other notable names at top, obviously Ella Hansen. Whenever you put her on a course that requires distance and length, or at least gives them more of an advantage, we're going to see her kind of towards the top of those leaderboards the majority of the time. She finishes in third. Almost, I think too, she might have thought maybe she had an outside chance with eagling hole 18 to maybe sneak into a playoff. But it just didn't happen. Yeah. Kristen Tatar. So you actually mentioned that, her putting has been so good. Something that kind of jumped out at me when we were talking with her last week, she kind of mentioned that she doesn't really practice putting. Like she just putts on the course. And if she feels like something is wrong, maybe in the week, she'll go and practice. And if you remember too, like Isaac Robinson kind of said the same thing when we asked him about like, how often do you putt? And he was just kind of like, I don't. Now with Isaac, I will call him out. I did see him at the end of one of the Portland rounds grinding on the putting green. So I don't know if he was downplaying how much he practices putts, but he definitely does practice. But with Kristen, she ends up missing 10 putts inside of circle 1 for the tournament. She misses out on the playoff by 3 strokes. It makes you wonder, like, is that maybe something that she will, because she does seem like a very internalizes things really well. Is that something you think she's going to like think about? Like, man, maybe putting is something I need to spend a little bit more time on, just make sure my stroke is good.
I mean, I don't think so. I think she's got, it locked in, and people have bad weekends. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I think it was just an off weekend. It's not like it's the first time she's lost this year. And it just was one of those weekends. I mean, she was 3 strokes out of the lead, missing 10 in the circle. So the rest of the field needs to take advantage of that, and they did.
Yeah. I think Ella tweeted out saying that her biggest accomplishment this weekend was it was the first time she ever beat Kristen Tatar in a tournament. So, it's when you have people tweeting out like that didn't win the tournament, that they're just excited beating you. That I think it kind of shows how dominant you've been.
Right. But the other thing is I think she was never in the lead. I think she might've been like tied or one up during the round, but after every round, she was never in the lead. And that's something that I mentioned, in previous podcasts, is that's the one thing I'm waiting for her to do, because I feel like if she
She did it at Waco, but that was more the players ahead of.
She didn't know.
That was also more the players ahead of her also fell back. Like she didn't go out and get it.
And she didn't even know it was for the win.
No, it's true. No, you're right.
So that's kind of my point is, if she can become, like that level of when Macbeth was on the second card, it didn't matter. You knew he was going to win anyway. If she can get to that next level, the FPO field has a way bigger problem than they could ever imagine, because missing 10 putts in the circle, all those things, the only weak spot that I've seen, it's not the putting, it's not the driving, it's not the mental, nothing. It is, so far she's had a tough time coming back for the win. She's a great front runner, but that would be my only knock. And eventually she will do it, and I do believe she will level up to that spot. So, I mean, FPO needs to definitely take advantage of it while they can.
After round,
go pedal to the metal first round, get the lead. That's your only chance.
She was 2 shots behind Holland after round 1 shot behind Ella, and tied with Missy after round 1. And Hailey was actually 2 shots behind Kristen after round 1, but ended up obviously shooting 62-62, which I believe was the low score of the tournament. So she is like backed up 2 in a row. A couple of things. Valerie Mandahano back in the field. Good to see her back out there. She has always been someone that, when she was kind of, that big win that she had at Waco, she's had a couple other great finishes, but her game is one of those where her putting is really good. She has a really, really solid backhand, has a great backhand turnover shot as well, because her forehand isn't maybe as dominant or as, as good, I guess you could say, as some of the other, polished as some of the other FPO players. But very excited to see her getting back in the action. Didn't have the weekend that obviously I think she was looking for. She finishes in a tie for 18, actually ties her sister Alexis at +1. So pretty far off the lead, but getting back into the swing of things. Hopefully, the ankle kind of holds up. I didn't even know what ended up, like what her actual injury was, but she tore 2 ligaments in her ankle earlier this year. So we'll kind of look at that, see how that goes forward. I would love to kind of get her back in the mix, because I think she could be another player that can kind of battle for contention here. All right, let's pull up the putt on hole 14. We're not going to talk too much about baskets, but something I do want to mention is I think Aaron Gossage was right. He was talking about during the Jomez practice round with you guys, he was talking about the ring and how there's like these bolts to where the basket's designed for when you hit the chains, the ring at the bottom of the basket like slides up so that when the chains go in, the ring slides up. When that bolt is on the bottom, though, it sometimes catches the ring. And so what ends up happening is, in this putt that you watch right here, it looks like her disc just hits like a wall. The chains don't really move back at all. It just hits and just like ricochets straight back. To me, that's a putt that we need to completely remove from the game. Like that should not happen. The cut throughs, I think those are going to happen sometimes. High lefts, high right, that's fine. But that putt, that putt is simply because the ring caught the bolt and didn't function the way it's supposed to. Someone can literally walk right behind her, same spot, same putt, and the ring doesn't catch the bolt and it goes in. That to me is like, it's tough to see, right? It's tough to see. I don't know if we want to talk about that, if you want to talk about any more with baskets, but.
No, I mean, I have the same take I did before. Listen, middle with hyzer from any distance is, no matter what anybody says, it's not a place you want to hit it on the basket. Replay that one more time. Normally, okay, she's going to putt it. Okay. She's watching it. She goes down, but she's watching. She doesn't stop watching. And you and I both know why. There's a place on a basket that when you putt it, you're like, oh, please stay in. Am I right about that? If it's on the stripe from that close with a little hyzer, you know it has a chance to come back to. Do you not? Because I know I do. And you have to watch. And you have to wait a second to be like, okay, is this the time that it comes back to me? And if that is fact,
I don't want to jinx myself. I've never seen that happen to myself, so I don't want to jinx myself and say like,
well, for me personally,
expecting that to happen.
I just see people putt on the pole in the middle, and they wait, and they're like, okay, yeah, it stayed in. Okay, now I can grab my mini, I can move on.
But like,
I'm saying, if that's the case. If that is a feeling that you get,
I'm not saying
it's no, you don't, but I do.
Okay.
And I think other people might as well. In fact, I know it's true because they wait. And if that's fact, then it's not a great putt. I'm sorry. It's in the middle. But now let me ask you this. If she hits 4 inches lower, does it stay in? From that close?
Yes. Yeah.
That's my point. What if we got, and this is what I was telling Aaron in the practice round. That's my only point is you can't putt a putt and be like, please don't spit out. It stays in.
I agree.
And then feel good about that putt because there's no way you were aiming there. There's no way.
Just don't like the bolt.
Aim low.
I don't like the bolt.
No, I hate that too.
I don't like the bolt. I don't like that. I don't like the chains. Here's my thing. I want the chains to react the same for everyone. And when the chains are moving around, like the ring at the bottom is moving around because of the wind or whatever, and it just so happens to be in that one spot to where you hit the chains and then it catches the bolt and doesn't actually, to me, that's where it's like, what are we doing? Why is there a bolt? Why is that a thing?
All right. Pun intended. She totally got screwed for sure. But what if, is this even an option? Just hear me out. What if we had a spot on the basket that was 5 inches like this? And if you hit that spot, any part of it in the middle, it just counts. Like, what if there was a spot on the basket that, like, if you hit any part of it, it was good. If it stays in, it's good. But if it spits out and you hit that spot, no matter what, it counts. And like a little red thing on the top goes like,
yeah, you've been hanging around with Aaron too much. That's what Aaron wants. Aaron wants like the technology they use for like fencing, where if something gets touched, just a light goes off. And so as long as it's touched, it counts. I don't know. We just need to get the bolt fixed. I didn't know about the bolt. Now I'm terrified. I didn't know about it. Now I'm terrified about it.
How many bounce outs have you had this year? Like straight on the pole out?
One.
I've had none.
I think I've only had one. But I think it was 0. High. It was high to where it's like, to me, that could happen. I don't think her putt was that high. I don't think her putt was that high.
In the circle. I see more spit outs from outside the circle than I do see inside the circle.
Oh, I agree. Myself. Yeah. No,
and
I agree.
That's because I don't have the speed control. I don't get a lot of spit outs.
It's tough seeing that from like 15 feet.
Oh, but that's the spot that it happens the most is a 15-footer, especially at GBO. How many times have we seen that? Straight in, straight out, 15-footer. How far was it Gossage?
It's so ugly. It's like 15 feet. It's so ugly to watch. It's so
the spot
ugly to watch.
That it happens.
All right, what else we got? FPO. Kona Montgomery showed a little bit of life this week. Haven't really thrown her name around all too often, but went out and shot 68-66, kind of put herself in the mix. I believe at a certain point she was top 5. Doesn't have a good final round, shoots 77. Ends up having a really poor putting round. 9% C1X. She ends up missing 1, 2, 4 putts, hole 9. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So misses 10 putts inside the circle. The final round ends up, and also misses all 4 circle 2 putting. but threw the disc pretty well off the tee. 50% circle 1, 61% circle 2, but showing a little bit of life, you know. And again, you know, she is someone that is going to be in the spotlight with her social media following, with their big contract, with Dynamic Disc flying her in on a helicopter. She is something that people are going to, you know, scroll down the leaderboard. Where did Kona finish? Right. And it was nice to kind of see her in the mix for a little bit. And hopefully, like you said, take that momentum maybe into this week and continue to kind of pushing up. I think she just needs a little bit of confidence. She just needs a little bit, you know, 1 or 2 good finishes here, because 68, 66, like she was kind of in the mix at the beginning of the tournament. So, yeah. All right. And that is, I think, all we got. Oh, before we move on to other things about the actual event, I do want to say on the FPO side, I think, and this is even for Worlds, I think hole 16, I think it's an absolute atrocious hole to pick for a playoff. I think whoever decided hole 16 should be the playoff hole should get a big slap on the booty, because I think that is, I don't know what they're thinking. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. Give me hole 18. Give me hole 17. Let's go to the par 5 hole 14. All these holes aren't that far away. Give me something other than who can execute this one shot. And guess what? Whoever throw, like, these are the only scenarios this hole is actually exciting. Ready? 2 people, they both throw, they make the island. They both have like 30 footers. That's going to be exciting. The only other scenario is they both miss the island. That sucks. Now they're both going to the drop zone. Does one person throw in the drop zone? Like, that's the only way hole 16 is exciting. One person makes the island. One person doesn't make the island. It's over. Now they have to walk all. It's, to me, bad hole. Agree or disagree, Yuli?
For a playoff, I think bad hole. I do.
Let's have it be like the third hole. Let's have it be the third hole. Let's go 17. Let's go 18. And if it's still tied, then let's go to 16. But don't give me 16 right away.
I like 18, then 16, then 18, then 16.
Okay, back and forth. That's still fine. I'll handle that. But yeah, I don't know. But both the worlds. I mean, same thing. Paul's has done it twice now. Worlds in Utah against James Conrad. He had to go with the island hole. Didn't work out for him. Then Worlds Emporia. It worked out for him. But to me, it's just like, well, let's get away from these par 3 island holes playoff. Like, let's get away from that. It's a great hole 16. Great hole 16. Terrible playoff hole. All right. I don't know if we want to dig into. I've got a lot to say about the course and the event. So I don't know if we want to jump into that yet, because I don't really want to.
Let's go over the standings real quick. I want to get that out of the way.
Let's do that. Let's do that, because that'll be good. By the time we're done with that, Parker will be on here, and then we'll go there. Okay, so what do you got for us?
All right,
at this point, we're halfway through the season. Halfway through the season.
Yep, a little more. Yeah, one tournament more, I think, than halfway through. And so this is going to be the tour points standings. The big one is 32nd place. That's when you get into the tour championships if you haven't won. If you've won an elite series, I believe you get a spot in the play-in. Okay. So these people right now, as of right now, are locked in. I'll just go through the first few names and how many points they have. Robert Burridge is the last person in right now. He's at 32nd, and he has 224 points. So that's the mark right now, 224 points. And that's using 8 tournaments, because he's been on tour the whole time. Plus, I believe he's also played at least 3 silvers. So that's as many points as you could accumulate to be in last spot. The people on the bubble right now are Garrett Gerthy. He is 5 points off of that mark. Silas Schultz, Nico, Austin Turner, Kevin Kiefer, Brody Smith, Chris Clemens, Eric Oakley, Evan Smith, Parker Welck with a win, only 182 points. 83 points. Drew Gibson, Gavin Rathbone, Luke Sampson, Andrew Marweed. I mean, when you go down this list, I'm just naming great players after great players after great players who are not in the Tour Championships. That's kind of mind-blowing. I will reach out to Statmando because I wanted to come up with a few statistics that I was curious about, and one of them was a last cash statistic. I was wondering if you took last cash in every single tournament, if you would get your tour card or how many points you would accumulate, right? Last cash on the season would give you 78 points as of right now. That's not a lot of points, but it would get you in as a tour card holder. I also think that if you got last cash at every tournament, it would be the most frustrating year of your entire life, even though you cashed it would like be bittersweet.
So stressful. It'd be so stressful.
Yeah, it would be like 200, 300, 140, 45, like all the way down the thing. That thought's hilarious to me. But I also thought that would, it says by season in 2022, though, it would have been 85th. So that would be bordering a tour card. Interesting stat. So you have to play better than even cashing every single time to get a tour card, essentially, which is kind of a crazy statistic.
I was just gonna say, you want to have, if you are like that mid-tier level, okay, you're not one of the top guys that's consistently finishing, top 20. If you're that mid-tier level, I think it behooves you to have like the Parker Welck season where you pop off and get a win or top 5 or a top 10 and then miss cash a little bit and then come out, right? Like, I think that's better than just 45th, 44th, 46th, 42nd. Yeah.
The next one that I asked him to look up was, what would you have to average to get to the Tour Championships? Like what place? And basically, if you took 26th place at every tournament, that would get you in to the Tour Championships, which was kind of surprising to me. I feel like that's about right, though, 26.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
That's really consistent golf. I mean, that's probably, that would get you a good amount of cash too. So that would be a solid season right there.
Because there are players that, Nate Sexton's a perfect example, probably not going to qualify for the Tour Championship because he just doesn't play enough tournaments. But when he does play in those tournaments, he's stealing points, right? Like he's jumping in there and stealing points away. And yeah, you gotta finish pretty high at some of these tournaments to get in. You got to have some good finishes.
And then the person that I really thought about and how tough the competition is right now is Adam's a perfect example of winning and then just completely missing cash by a bunch of strokes. Like it's not, if you win a tournament, you're not guaranteed to have a great season. Like you had a good season because you can say I won an elite series and you get into the play-in for the Tour Championships and everything. But that doesn't necessarily mean that your season was a success. Like if I told you, hey, you get one win and you miss cash every tournament, would you take that? Or would you take a 10th here, 50th there, a 70th, a couple top 5s? You know what I mean? Would you trade all of that for a win?
I would, yeah. To me, I think the goal is winning. And so obviously it's nice to get some top finishes here and there, but if I don't ever win, that's gonna really be a hard pill to swallow, right?
So would you trade like imagine that though. Imagine grinding the whole year and let's say you get like your 5th tournament and you win. But then you get 78th every single time after that.
I think
that would be like the most you would. I don't think I would.
I think I would take it. For me, I think if I ever win on tour, it would be there would just still be a lot of people. I'm sure there'd be like, you know, reasons that people would come out, be like, oh, he won because of X, Y, and Z. It doesn't really count. But to me, it would be a crazy feat to be able to do that. This late in my life, picking up the sport this late, being able to go from one Frisbee throwing sport to another, I would trade a lot to get a W. And I mean, that's the only reason that's literally the only reason I'm on tour is to win. What's going to be interesting is what my mentality, you know, hypothetical. Let's say I do win. It's going to be interesting to see what my mentality is, because is it going to be, holy crap, that was awesome, let's go do it again? Or is it going to be like, okay, I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish?
Right. And I've been asked this question before. I think it was on another podcast. But how many wins would, you know, I have like over 100 PDGA wins. How many would I give up to have a major championship? And it really got me thinking, like, that's my last goal. Like, how many would I give up? And would I rather have 100 wins or one major championship? And I would pick the 100 wins. Even though the major's like my last thing, because without those, then what was my career anyway? You know what I mean? It's like it's an interesting question that like takes you time.
But there is a number.
Really process.
There is a number,
there is for sure, without a doubt. Absolutely.
Like would you do 10 wins or a major? Like if you had 10 wins to your name, would you lose all those 10 and take it for a major?
I would rather give up the cash. I'd give up every single dollar that I ever made on tour to win a major. But I don't know about the wins.
What about all like your B and C tiers? You have to give up all your B and C tiers. Yeah, see, like I think there's a number for everyone. I think there's a number for everyone of like sure, what's important.
Yes, 100%. I think it's a great question though. But Parker's waiting in the
Let's throw him in.
On the sidelines here.
We have the winner of the Dynamic Disc Open coming to us live. Parker, I saw you out on the course already grinding for DMC. How's it feeling, man? You've had a couple days to kind of, be with your thoughts, if you will. How's it feeling now? Can you believe it happened?
It was crazy, man. Right now, I'm kind of feeling like I can do it again, but it's going to take a lot, and it takes a lot of practice. So I've definitely like grinding a little bit more than usual to kind of boost myself a little bit here.
So you've had that, you have that taste of how good it feels to win. And so now it makes, going out and putting a little bit extra, a little extra putting practice, maybe focus on a few other things. Like it makes it a little bit easier now that you've seen what it feels like to kind of get the W.
Yeah. And also like kind of what it takes as well. Cause when I was playing, I was just throwing plastic. I was having fun. I was landing in spots where I needed to land, and I wasn't really throwing it out of bounds too much. And when I was saving par or birdie. And it really came to my attention. Like you just need to really just focus and just do it instead of like, oh, la, 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 just throw the disc.
Yeah, it's a different mentality when you're actually in contention than if you're just kind of out there being like, oh, I'm playing for 20th or 30th or 40th. All right, before we get into your incredible performance this last weekend at DDO, I did want to ask you a question. So they were talking on the broadcast a little bit about, you're from a Frisbee family. You're I believe most of your family members play disc golf. You kind of were raised playing disc golf, and is it correct that you were raised in Hawaii? Is that correct?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Hawaii. Spent my whole life there, kind of grown up with disc golf all around me. And for the record, Parker is a disc golf name that my parents gave me. I guess it means keeper of the park or something like that, but also a pretty sweet disc golf name. And yeah, disc golf has kind of just always been around. We've had just baskets in my backyard my whole life, just because my dad has always just loved to play disc golf. He's helped make just a ton of courses out in Hawaii, pretty much all of them on Maui. And Yeah, it's been cool. Just disc golf has kind of always been there for me.
So when I went out to Hawaii, I got the chance to play a couple of courses. Curious if you've played these. Have you played Lidgate before?
I haven't played any of the courses besides the ones on Maui.
Okay. Is Princeville on Maui? I can't remember.
No. Princeville is not in Maui.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I got to play those two courses, and Hawaii disc golf's awesome because it's like you can kind of just get lost in the scenery around you. It's a little bit of a different experience than playing my local courses in Dallas.
Yeah, it's super different. It's more of like you said, the views that bring you in instead of the actual course themselves. Because you can kind of you play a hole and then you can look and turn around and then you get to see the whole ocean and then like the next island over. And it's just amazing. It's really pretty.
One of the things that makes me feel extra old is after I won Am Worlds, we took a cruise out to Hawaii, and we stopped at a bunch of islands. And one of the guys from Maui calls me up or messages me on Facebook or whatever. He's like, "Hey, I want you to really play this course." And I'm like, that sounds awesome. And he drove to the ship, picked me up, and took me up, and we played disc golf. That's Parker's dad. Parker's dad did that for me.
No way.
Yeah. Long time ago. That was 2006. And so I've always had a special place in my heart for your dad because that's like one of the most friendly things anybody's ever done. I never met the guy, never ever. And then he just saw through social media that I was coming to Hawaii, and he drove all the way out there, picked me up from the ship, took me up to one of the coolest courses, best experiences of my life to this day. So then now his son's beating me every single weekend on the tour.
Yeah, I went to have you heard of this like barbecue place on I don't know what island it's on, but it's this guy, he owns like a barbecue shop, but he loves disc golf, so he has like a disc golf store in his barbecue shop. He hit me up and I went in, and everyone that I've talked to in Hawaii that's in the disc golf community, they are so excited about just trying to get more people into the game. And I actually think Princeville is, maybe not now, but in the future would be the perfect location for like the all-star event, because I think they would roll out the red carpet. It would be incredible. The views, everything, the course is awesome. It would be cool to see like an event. Do you think that is possible in the future? Like having some sort of all-star event or something like that in Hawaii?
I think that would be awesome. And as you know, everyone in Hawaii is they're treating you like family when you go out there. It's really cool to see complete strangers will come up to you and ask you how your day's going and wanting to get to know you just seemingly out of nowhere. So I think that would be really, really cool to have, a playoff event or something like that in Hawaii, because it's kind of just a destination vacation type deal. Might as well add some disc golf in there.
Gotta ask, are you big in the surfing? You a big surfer?
Yeah. I grew up surfing pretty much my whole life. Grew up skating. I've been in the water just forever. It's a lot different than the California water, that's for sure.
Oh, dude, California water. I don't know how people go in there without a wetsuit. It's so freaking cold. Coming from the Florida boy, you gotta stay on the Atlantic side. All right, let's jump in a little bit more on your season so far. So, kind of looking back at how you performed this season. Probably not the season you had hoped for at some of these events. What if I just tuned into the Disc Golf Network for the first time on Sunday and I'm watching you play, I'm not thinking like, oh, this guy's like hasn't really had any good finishes this season. I'm thinking you're like one of the best players, if not the best player in the world. What clicked this week for you to just play kind of, I don't even know if you consider you played out of your mind. Like, what happened?
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't think that my season's going bad. It's my first time. I can't really be too mad at how I'm doing at all because it's literally my first time. But
for sure, that wasn't a disrespectful thing. I'm just saying that was more like looking at your season versus like other people that have won on tour. They don't match up. Is what my point was. Is
all
like
right, I'm seeing what you're saying.
You were able to put it all together at this tournament, and I'm just curious, how you felt kind of going into it.
Yeah, I mean, I took a little break after Portland Open. I went home to see my wife, so I was feeling pretty refreshed coming back into this event. And this is one of the courses that I feel really good about. I didn't play it too well last year at Worlds, only because I wasn't really playing my game. I was trying to emulate someone else's game who I practiced with. And I thought that was the best way to do it, but it was not. So I came out to this event. And do you guys know who Dr. Disrespect is, the Call of Duty streamer?
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually I was pumping some of his inspirational like intro videos into my ear as I'm like flexing in the mirror the morning of the tournament. I was just trying something new, like, hey, let's see if this gets me going. And man, I was pumped, dude. I was so pumped going into round 1. So I continued that round 2 and round 3, and it worked out pretty well for me. I think I'm gonna keep that up, keep doing it.
That's awesome. The Slick Daddy. Shout out to the Slick Daddy. One thing that was very interesting to me was we've seen players time and time again, they'll have a good round 1, and then all of a sudden they're on lead card the next day, or even mid-round, they're having a good round and cameras show up and start filming them, and all of a sudden they're like missing putts and whatnot. This was your first time playing on camera, right? On live coverage?
Yeah, it was my first time playing on live coverage. It wasn't my first time on camera. I've played some smaller events with on camera before, but nothing in comparison to what this was. But the reality is, I think it's a lot easier for me to play on camera. It really pumps me up. It hypes me up knowing that like people are watching and they want to see me do well, and I get to kind of showcase my skills and put on a show. You know, you can't really put on a show if nobody's watching.
Yeah, that is one thing that watching you play, I think you were kind of a breath of fresh air, because a lot of times we see players that are very like stoic and just like they make a putt and they're just, and you were getting the crowd pumped. I mean, we'll get a little bit into they're not really being that big of a crowd there, but for the people that were there, you were getting pumped up. And the amount of motion that you showed on the course, like even when you just would make that part, I kind of want to break down some of the holes, but I'm jumping ahead of myself just because I'm getting too excited. But like that birdie putt you made on hole 8 after going OB, you're just kind of like, you almost do like the Michael Jordan, like shrug a couple times during your round of where you're just like, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on. And to me, like seeing that natural emotion of where it didn't feel like you were trying to put on a face or trying to be someone because you're on coverage. It seemed like you were just naturally yourself. Is that how you kind of always are during your rounds? You just kind of show that emotion, whether there's cameras there, whether there's a crowd there?
Well, I was definitely getting myself into positions while I was on camera. I was trying to be a lot more aggressive while I was on camera. And kinda, in a way. I definitely am not super like, oh, I'm gonna jump through a tree if I hit a putt, or I'm not gonna like, you know, swing around, do a 360, shrug my shoulders. I'm just gonna go get my putt and move on if there's no cameras or anything. So there is a little bit of a change when there's cameras.
I like it. I mean, at the end of the day, we are playing a sport for entertainment, right? Without the fans, without the actual like people wanting to tune in, our product is absolute trash. And so I just want to say, like, keep doing it, because I think we need more players on tour that kind of build this, you know, persona about themselves and let it shine when like the lights are the brightest. Because to me, that's so much more interesting seeing that than seeing like 4 people on lead card that are all just, you know, they make a 60-footer and there's, yep, thank you.
Yeah, business as usual. The closest thing that I've seen even this year, because you're right, like watching him play, it was like, I guess the only thing that comes to mind is he was playing so free. You know what I mean? Like it felt like everything that you were doing, everything was going right. And even you were like, oh, look at that. Like, look what's happening to me, guys. You know what I mean? And having like a joy about the round that you don't really see a lot. You know, when you see Calvin and Paul, like Brody's saying, it's business. You know what I mean? And they're locked in because they have to be there doing the thing. And it seemed like to me that you were having a really good time playing in the moment. You know what I mean? Which is what golf's all about. And the only time this year that I've seen that was with actually Silas at the Champions Cup, watching him play and seeing him like when he was making the run on the final day. I think he birdied like 8 out of the first 9 or something. But the way that when they were showing, he was just like, oh, I made another one, like type thing. You know what I mean?
Good comp, yeah.
Which is it's a rare thing to see.
All right, so Parker, what does this win mean to you? Like how has it changed things? How has it changed your life? How has it changed your tour schedule? What does it look like for the next 3 years?
It's completely life-changing. I was going into this on a 1 year, maybe 2 year deal, because if I didn't get a tour card for next year, I'm not playing next year. I'm going home. I'm being a husband to my wife, Hailey. And so it means the world that now I can be the husband. I can have Hailey come out with me, and we have a almost scholarship type feel to play next year. And I think it'd be really cool for her to come out, as long as I guess it's kind of a weird situation because she's trying to get into PA school, and if she gets into PA school, then she'll go do that. But if she doesn't get into PA school, I'm sure she'll come out on the road with me.
Oh, nice.
But, yeah.
Are you doing the van life? What's how are you kind of traveling, or what's the, I guess the plan for next year now that you are kind of locked in with your tour card?
Well, this year we're pulling a truck and trailer. I'm not sure if you know who Jake Brown is, but he's my tour partner for this year, and so we've been doing really well together on just pretty much every level. It's been really, really fun. But going into next year, I don't really have a plan. There's nothing picked out for me. There's no van or anything like that. But I'm not sure. I'd be open to Airbnbs, to getting a van, just getting it done. Honestly, whatever it takes.
Yeah,
and
now's
honestly,
the exciting part to kind of figure that all out.
And having a win on tour, that's a nice little, what do you call it, little treat to dangle in front of all the sponsors too. You know what I mean? Which can be big for next year to see like what kind of, new contracts you can get with that, because that is a big piece. Winning's everything in this sport. Not everything, but it's at the highest of the totem pole for sure.
And obviously, I'm sure you're going to, I don't know how big you are on the social medias, like how much you are looking at what people are saying and all that stuff. And I'm sure there is maybe going to be some people being like, well, this was like a fluke win. We're never going to. Watching you play that final round, your game leads to being successful at a lot of tournaments on tour. The way you play disc golf and the way you played that final round, it wasn't like you were hitting trees and like ricocheting back in bounds, and Calvin was like, had food poisoning and couldn't throw a shot. Like you went out and won that. You went out and won that thing. And we'll get into kind of some of these holes. I have one more question though before we get into your final round. Mom on the bag. What's the deal there? What was is that first time this season that your mom came out and caddied for you?
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. I missed Portland, the Portland Open Cup by 1 or 2, and I booked a flight home that night to go see my wife. And so I went home, got that nice refreshing break, like I said, and I called up my mom and I was like, "Hey, can you come pick me up? You want to fly out to Kansas City and then get a rental car and drive and hang out at the tournament with me?" Because I didn't want Jake to drive the 2 hours from Emporia all the way to Kansas City to come pick me up and then all the way back. And that would be a mess. But I have some family here in Iola, Kansas as well, which is about, an hour and 20 minutes, I think, south of Emporia. So my mom was just like, yeah, sure, I'll get it done. And she was super excited that I invited her because she lives in Nevada now. So we don't really see each other too often anymore. But when we do, it's always a ton of fun. And I was happy that she decided to come out, and she did such a good job on my bag. She never complained. That's a long course too, and it's hot, and she did such a great job.
How many times has she seen you? Sorry, Brady.
Oh, go. Yeah, that's good.
How many times has she been there live to watch you play?
Are you talking on the Pro Tour specifically?
Sure, like a big tournament, big tournament. Was this the first time watching you? Because that'd be funny if she just comes in, she's like, okay, I'll come caddy for you. You know, you're playing this game or whatever. And then, you know, you make lead card and you win. And, you know, as a mom, I'm sure she's like, of course, that's my boy, you know, type thing. Or,
No,
or
dude,
what was that like?
Let me stop you there.
Okay.
You can't disrespect the mama, man. She's a state champion in Hawaii.
Let's
played
go.
snap.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So
Yeah,
did
she
you
knows all
lean on
about
her
it,
at
and-
all during the final, like especially during the final round? Like, were you guys kind of talking through shots at all?
Yeah.
She did a great job at not responding to me. I didn't want her to respond. I kind of just wanted to use her as like talk her through my shot real quick after I threw it. Like, oh, that was really good, or okay, I just threw that out of bounds, or okay, I just lost the tournament, and then she would just like stay quiet, and I think that helped me a lot instead of like replying and saying like, no man, you got it, Parker, and then I'll just get mad at that or something. Like, no, I just lost, you don't understand. But it was great having her there.
That's awesome. That's very. Did that change your mind maybe in the future of like finding local caddies and stuff? You know, or
I mean, dude, I'd love to have a caddy at like every event. Carrying that bag is no fun. We all know it. But now that I won a tournament, people hit me up about carrying the bag. I'm always down.
Oh, I don't think you're gonna find a problem. Yeah, it's just sometimes you might have someone that wants to talk to you about everything and be like, hey man, what disc are you about to throw here? So you might have to do a little bit like, hey, this is like you did with your mom of like, hey, I just want you to listen to what I have to say. I don't actually want to hear you. But I'm sure
I
you
never
will
even
have
thought about that.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll have no problem if you, you know, especially if you just like hit up kind of some of the local scenes or just, you know, make a post on Instagram and stuff. I'm sure people would love to, especially after watching you play. Come on, man. I'm sure people are going to be wanting to fist pump and stuff when you make a huge putt. So, all right, let's jump into your final round because it was a crazy final round. You start off the final round 7 under through 9. This is a course that the front 9 is like a massive scoring. Like, you know, you have to get out hot and get out early and score. I think you only threw 2 loose shots the entire front 9. You had hole 2, you were kind of pinched a little bit on the right, kind of threw a loose approach shot. And then hole 7, your upshot after you smashed the drive into a great spot. You kind of threw your upshot, kind of fluffed it out to the right a little bit, but cashed the putt. Other than that, your front 9, my goodness, dude, like how was that going out there and just like executing shot after shot?
Well, did you watch any of the coverage, Brody?
Yeah, I watched the entire
So what about the loose shot on 8?
Oh. No, man, I meant to throw it out of bounds off the tee.
I haven't gotten to there yet. I was just going.
Okay.
Hole 8's the first hole. Well, I have one hole to go through, but let's just go to this. Why the backhand on hole 5? That surprised me when I saw you line up the backhand. I went, hole 2 forehand, hole 3 forehand, hole 4 forehand. When I got to hole 5, I was like, I'm just gonna blast another forehand. I was surprised that with your distance, you didn't go forehand there.
Hole 5, you're talking about like you kind of shoot down and then up the hill through the trees.
Yeah, par 4, kind of skinny.
Yeah, I like that forehand play, but that sidewalk on the right side, it like swoops in, and if you go like any short or if you saw it off at all, then you're out of bounds. And I knew if you just keep it in bounds on that hole, you're probably going to get a birdie if you just miss the trees in your upshot. So just want to keep it in bounds.
Okay, so you don't really step up to holes then thinking like, how do I throw a forehand here? You're willing to throw what you think is the best throw, forehand or backhand.
Yeah, I mean, I got pretty much the same angle, the same. I'm basically a lefty and a righty at the same time when it comes to it, because I got the same distance, the same angles, the same control. It's just kind of dealer's choice on every hole for me.
It's nice to have. All right, so let's go into hole 8, because this was one of the craziest holes I think I've seen in a final round. For those that don't know, hole 8 is like the 1,000+ par 5. We're up high and we're throwing down into a very skinny kind of landing zone. And you decide to go forehand off the tee here. Walk me through the decision there.
cameras are on me, crowd's pumped. I'm going for that eagle. I got it there in 2 second rounds. Oh wait, no, did I? Yeah, I got it in 2 second round. My second shot, I sawed off on the second round though, and I only got it to like 40 feet short or something like that. But I can get there in 2, no problem. And so I wanted to do that every round, but I had like a little bit of a headwind. I thought my disc was going to flip over just a little bit, and it did, but it just wasn't pushing left at all. It just kind of stayed straight and then straight out of bounds.
So you coming up to that, you kind of went OB late in the flight. So you're still really far up there. You're going for that in your head already, whether you're inbounds or not. That was the play from the get-go?
Yeah, I'm taking a par in that hole at worst, no matter what I do, because if I go out of bounds off the tee, I'm going to be so far up there, I'm going to have a putt for birdie most likely. But if not, then I'm just throwing a 130-foot up shot to get a par.
I was wondering because the backhand off the tee, which I think you see from almost 99% of the players that play, the scary thing with the backhand trying to go for distance is your OB the majority of the flight, and if it never comes back in, you have to take it so far back. With that forehand, you're in bounds for the majority of the flight, and then whether you stay in or go out, maybe that's actually honestly probably the smarter play if you are trying to go for the eagle there. Just like you said, like par at worst because you're so far up there. I don't think, and Yuli, you correct me if you're wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Jomez, I don't know about live, but I don't think Jomez did a good job of showing how difficult that second shot he had was. I think it's tough too because it's like it is a weird like undulation, and I don't know where you need to get the cameras right, but that shot right there, Parker, and you might just think, oh, that's just a normal standard hyzer forehand, 500 feet, no big deal. That shot, you are having to push it over OB, over the water, left of these 2 trees that are in the fairway, and then you're having to cut it in on a tree that is OB, that if you clip that tree at all, it's going to drop and be OB. I mean, that was, when you threw that shot, when you executed that, was that just like another day at the office, or were you like, holy crap, I'm going to freaking win this tournament?
No, I was definitely not thinking I was going to be winning that tournament during that shot. That was just like, that was the shot I was going for, and I executed it, and I was stoked that I executed it, and then I wasn't out of bounds. So, yeah.
I don't know. That's a crazy shot, right, Yuli? I'm not just like over exaggerating here.
No, it's definitely a crazy shot, but it sounds like the way he's talking about it, that it's a shot that he's able to execute like fairly easy. Like imagine you being there and then having a backhand hyzer into that spot. It's not that difficult, and I think that's kind of what he's telling us is, hey, I got that shot both ways, and it's like kind of a go-to. Which, if that's the case, why is this your first win?
Yeah, just 500 sidearm lacing it through these trees. Final round of an elite event. That was nuts. All right. So after 9, because you guys all end up kind of I believe you all end up parring. I think Alden might have taken a bogey or double. But after 9, you, Alden, and Calvin at this point have separated yourself from the field. You guys are all 26 under. I think next is Matty O at 23 under. Like I said, you had those 3 loose shots. Other than that, pretty flawless front 9. Are you looking at scores at this point? Do you know where you're at?
We all parred hole 9, and then the first time I looked at scores was on hole 10, right after Alden hit the first tree and kicked him straight out of bounds. Then I looked at the scores. That's right.
He took double there. That's right. You're right. Okay, so you after the front 9, you're like, I played really well, but I don't want to see what the scores are yet.
Well, it's just more like I'm just having fun and hanging out with the dudes and score. I just want to play my game. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, before the round started, I wanted to say this. Before the round started, I was nervous. I was so nervous, and I went up to Calvin and I told him that, and he basically said, dude, just don't even worry about it. Play your game, and you'll probably be doing just fine. And I was like, dang, dude, Calvin just told me that, and maybe I should do it. And so I kind of just wasn't really worried about it, and it started hot, kept hot all the way up until hole 9. Took that par.
Yeah, go ahead and finish. Took the par, and you're just feeling pretty smooth, right?
Yeah, it was feeling good. I wasn't really worried about anything. But then when I looked at scores right after Alden hit the tree, I think I was like 2 ahead of everyone else in that round. I was like 8 under or something, and they were like 6 under, 5 under, something like that. And I was tripping. I did not think I was winning, but it was really cool to see the scores, and I was like, whoa, there's a chance here. Like, wow.
What were the nerves after that happened? Like, what did you feel? Did you get nervous, and was it harder to execute shot, or did it put you into a better zone even to where now maybe showman time is over and it's time to win the tournament, or were you just like, no, I can't get that far ahead. I got to stick to my game plan and execute.
Well, showman time, and I can just run through those holes up until it was time to win the tournament, if you guys would like.
Yeah, because I was gonna say hole. Well, I got some notes here, right? So like hole 11, coming off of hole 10, and you that's when you looked at the scores after hole 11, right? Is that what you said?
No, well, luckily I threw my upshot on hole 10 before I looked at the scores, and I wasn't nervous.
Hole 10,
and I pretty much parked it. Yeah, but then
Okay.
hole 11, the reason why I shanked it straight into that right tree, it wasn't because of nerves. It wasn't because of any of that. It was the tee pad. I slipped round 1 hard. I slipped round 2 hard. And round 3, I decided to move back a little bit and tee off in the middle of the tee pad. And that's the only thing I was thinking about, was just not slipping on the tee pad.
Okay. Interesting. Was the wind pretty bad on hole 13 for the forehand, like the hyzer forehand? Because I know Yuli, you mentioned maybe on Jomez not going. You were interested that he was going backhand there on
12.
Yeah, sorry, 12, hole 12. Yeah.
Yeah, on 12, the whole time I'm kind of just having my dad yell in my ear. I knew he was just yelling in my ear, keep it in bounds. You don't need to throw it over. I can throw it back and up the middle, no problem. I don't need to be throwing these big bomber sidearms on holes like that where you're going to bogey if you throw it out of bounds. There's no question about it.
Or triple.
And, or triple, that is true. And I executed that backhand pretty well, and I wasn't nervous on the putt. I hit it dead center, maybe a millimeter too high, and it was good. I was still good there. I was fine.
I think that's it. So interesting about your game is even doing like commentary on it is we're just speculating because we haven't seen you play at all. And so like you're saying, that you go back to the point of like, I got 500 both ways. I'm basically a lefty and a righty, but that is obviously true because of the way that you're actually, pulling off the shots fairly easily. So you're just as confident with the backhand as a sidearm. And so that allows you to make the correct plays by going down the middle. And not only, it's just so fascinating to me because new guy, new lead card, but yet you're still golfing. You know what I mean? To the naked eye of watching this for the first time, it feels like you're making mistakes, by not doing these things that normally you would do. Like, okay, this guy has a huge sidearm, hyzer over the thing and do it. You know what I mean? So it's hard for us to like understand that. So this is a great conversation to kind of get to the bottom of it.
So now we're moving over onto hole 13. That hole ate me alive. I was trying to talk about how nervy that tee shot is because the tee pad isn't like lined up perfectly with it's like off to the left. It's like offset a little bit from the gap. What's kind of going through your head when, you clip the tree, follow B? What are you thinking? Because I'm sure it's a million miles, a million thoughts are jumping in your head at that point.
Yeah, well, after Calvin hit the birdie putt on the previous hole, I'm thinking like, oh man, I got to really park this thing. And so he threw his shot first, and it wasn't great. It was good. It was safe. It was in bounds, looking at a birdie from distance. And so So I step up, and I'm not nervous. I'm still having a good time. I probably still have a smile on my face, and I threw it good. I threw a good shot. It was with my stable D1. It's not supposed to flip over, and the wind was just a little too much there, and it did flip over. But I threw it exactly how I wanted it. If I were to go back and do it again, I'd throw that same angle. It just kind of flipped a little too much, and it hit the tree out of bounds. I walked over to my mom, and I was like, I just lost the tournament. And I didn't know how to feel. It was so weird.
So did that kind of free you up a little bit on hole 14 at that point? Because now you're no longer in the lead. You're in your head. You're thinking, I just lost the tournament. Are you? Did that help you at all going into hole 14?
Not on hole 14. It helped me on the putt on hole 13 though. I thought I lost, and I still had to execute that shot from way downtown to get it up there into circle one to make that putt. And that putt was a windy putt, and it was right on the pole. I wasn't nervous, and I was just thinking, okay, cool. Maybe second place will be nice. I'll take it. And I had a smile on my face that whole time, even when I hit that bogey putt, until hole 14 when Calvin, I don't really know what was going through his mind, but he threw it very hard off the tee. I think he knew that I was probably going to go for the eagle, so he maybe wanted to try or something, but it looked like he ripped it, and he hit the tree, and the camera panned over to me, and instead of, I was just like dead face, dude.
Wait a second.
Oh my goodness.
I'm back in this thing.
Because I'm going for the eagle no matter what. Yeah, and dude, instead of throwing that hyzer, I put a ripping on it and got way down there, and I wanted to see what Calvin's second shot was going to do, whether he was going to try and rip it over the green, and then I'd base my shot off that, because if he went OB on the green or something, then I could just pitch up for the birdie and probably a 2-stroke swing again. But he threw a great second shot, and he's all the way down there, and it kind of, when I was giving him the spot on that hole, it kind of just seemed like he was just over it. He was so bummed out that he just did that. Rightfully so, because I think that was one of the easiest holes on the course. But in that moment, I don't think he's not thinking about me. He's thinking about like Matty O. He's not, I don't know where Matty O was at in that tournament, but Parker Welck's not the guy that's going to come in and take out world number one. And so I lined up that forehand. I was pretty close, honestly, and I ripped it, and it was perfect. Everything about it was perfect. I thought it was going in, and then it just like poof. I don't know what it hit or something, but it hit the brakes really hard on top of the hill, and it really seemed so set up to be so picturesque in that frame of the camera, where it's looking up a hill at me while I'm in the sky and looking down at the basket. And in that moment, I'm not really freaking out. I'm more of just like, I need to get this done right now. I can tie. I need to get this done. And I hit it. And after I hit that shot, man, it was a completely different feeling from there on out. I was in fifth gear that round, and then after I hit that putt, I was in sixth gear, and it was crazy. I couldn't do any wrong. There was no wrong I could have done.
Out of your hand, did you think you made it, or because it hit left side, were you like, oh, I missed it, and then it went in and you were surprised, or out of your hand, were you like, okay, yeah, I just made that?
It was in. I wasn't sure if it was going to do like one of them little jumpy things outside the rim, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like hits the chains, folds over, and then like flops out the side.
Right.
But the putt was good out of my hand. I thought it was in, and I kind of like kicked it in just to make sure that it stayed in. But it was a good putt.
Can we, Size, can we pull up his forehand? The second, I think we have video of your throw into the green there. Something that stood out to me, and maybe this is just how you naturally throw, but you actually run to the right and then come back to the left. I don't know if that image, I don't know if you can see it, Parker, on your side, but and I think a lot of people at home are going to watch this and try to like break down your forehand form and go out to the field tomorrow and start throwing it themselves to see if they can throw 500 feet. do you know why you do that? Run up, like you kind of almost do like a little bit of a banana run up where you kind of go off to the right and then you come in at the end at the left?
Well, I'm looking at it now, and I think my only guess would be that's how power throwers throw their backhand. They don't run straight. They run kind of to the side and pull across their body. That would be my only reasoning why I think that would be the case. But that's kind of what I've always done. I'm not sure.
Okay, so that's not something that you're thinking about in your head. You're just like, I'm just going to rip this forehand, and then however it works, it works. Okay, all right, interesting. I might go have to try that out myself. A little banana cut run up there. So what's I mean, are you watching Calvin putt his birdie on 14, or are you like already like walking to the next tee, being like he's going to make this putt?
His par putt, yes, I watched it. I mean, I hit my putt. I went back to my mom, and we were kind of just watching Calvin see what he was going to do. And when he missed it, it's kind of a weird feeling, you know. He should be making those. Like 9 out of 10 times he's making them, maybe even 10 out of 10 times. And I don't know if he was shaken up, if he got big putt or something. Maybe it was just an honest error, or I don't know what it was, but it was wild to see him miss that and give me the lead going into 15.
Yeah, I mean, that was a 3-shot swing on hole 14, which is nuts late in the tournament. And it's just so crazy, the ebbs and flows of a hole before you're going to your mom being like, I lost the tournament. And now all of a sudden the next hole, you have a 1-shot lead going into the last couple. You guys all make birds on 15. I got to ask, because I think so many people were shocked with your shot selection on 16. Walk me through that. The flex stall backhand shot. I mean, that was a thing of beauty. It almost went in.
Yeah. When we got up there, I guess I think it was the cameraman that pointed, or maybe it was the spotter or something. They said that it was like 6 inches from going in or something like that. It went right across it. But that normally wouldn't be my play. Last year at Worlds, I was throwing a fairway, overstable fairway, and kind of just throwing it out to the right, kind of come back left. This year, during my practice round, I wasn't really prepared, and I didn't have like a water disc. I didn't have a disc I was willing to throw in the water. So I practiced with an M2 and just a straight hyzer overstable M2 play. Smoked that tree on the right side, instantly fell in the water, and I was like, oh my goodness, I don't have anything else I could throw on this hole. So I went back to my bag and looked at this A5, my beautiful A5, and I was like, okay, I'll just throw it. I probably should practice. And I threw that exact shot, and I posted that video on one of my reels on the Thursday before the round or something. And if you look at all of them, they look exactly the same pretty much. Out of my hand, they all look exactly the same. And I'm definitely not going to argue with results. So
no.
It was
especially on that hole, throw that M2 straight in the drink, man.
Having the confidence of like, this is the disc, this is the shot, I've done it before, and stepping up and just being like, let me just repeat it. That's huge. That's so huge on a hole like that. And
if there was any sort of wind, I don't know what I would do. I'd be forced to throw one of my nice discs that I can't afford to lose. And that'd be a little bit more pressure for me. But luckily, if you guys look back at it, it's just a pond. There's no wind. It was just perfect.
Yeah. All right. So you end up birding 17. Calvin takes par. I mean, you got to be walking off 17 with a 2-shot lead at that point. You got to be just like, holy cow. Because I think 1 shot going into hole 18, you're like, it's probably is a little bit nervy, right? Of where it's like, okay, like 2 shots still, like.
If I'm lining up a birdie with one stroke lead and Calvin's right there for birdie, I'm definitely airballing straight in the water.
Yeah, because at this point you're just like, all right, let me just get something in play. I don't you just have to par, and I think the way that hole 18 was set up this year versus in last year, I think they actually made it easier for the power throwers. It's not as a touchy shot. You can throw like that hyzer backhand and land in the big zone, and I mean, you just played it perfectly. You threw it into a perfect spot. You probably. If you really needed to, you had that birdie chance, but you didn't need it. And that's like the most beautiful thing, especially like you were talking about not having a putt to have to win. and have Calvin like right there and just being like, I've done enough this round. I've played so good this round that I'm given the opportunity of just having that tap in on hole 18. I mean, that's got to feel good.
Yeah, but Calvin threw his shot on 18 into a position where he could throw it in. And that was such a weird feeling for me, standing there waiting for him to throw in like a 330-foot shot to tie me and force a playoff. And it was such a weird feeling. I'm standing over there next to my mom, just like pinching, fingers crossed or something. I don't know. But when he missed it, I went over to my mom, and instead of saying, "Mom, I just lost," I said, "Mom, I just won."
It was nuts.
It was such a special feeling.
All right, the moment of the tournament, Silas, pull it up. It's the video that's been going around, the GIF that's been going around. I mean, I don't know if I've seen anything like this before. Yuli, you've been watching disc golf a lot more than I have. The parkour jump between the V and the trees. I mean, are we going to see a backflip next? Are we going to see you run up a tree and then do a backflip? Like what do you have in store? What was this just like a spontaneous moment and we don't know? You're going to bust out the worm or something if you make a 60-foot putt next time?
I've been thinking about that, man. I think disc golf needs some fun. And Matteo is a great example of it. That's why Matteo has so many fans, is because he's just a fun guy, dude. I mean, it would be awesome. And I talk about it with my friends all the time. Like, if I ever go on camera, I'm always just like, dude, if I make like Joe Miss, I'm going to hit the gritty. And of course, I didn't do that. But yeah, that's what people want to see, It's just having fun. You want to be out there having a good time. And it was really cool to be able to be in that position to do that.
Nice. All right, I have a few more questions and we'll kind of get you out of here. What pressure do you feel now after winning? Is the pressure a little bit higher going into this week?
I guess you could say so, but to me, I'm still an underdog, and I think everyone kind of agrees with that. But there's not really too much pressure along with it. I feel like I don't really feel too much pressure. And this week, I don't think I was put on a feature card, so there's a little bit less pressure to perform.
Fair. All right. You talked a little bit about the UDIS probability going into the final round, saying that you had, what would it say? You had like a single-digit % chance or something to win? And that kind of motivated you a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it was... I don't know. I couldn't sleep the night before, so I was like, all right, I'm going to check out UDIS. What do we got here? And I checked it out, and, dude, it was... which I agree. I kind of agree with the 1%. And, I think it was you guys that brought it to my attention. If I play Calvin one-on-one when he has 2 strokes, how many times out of 100 times am I going to beat Calvin? And, 1 maybe. So I think that it's very close to 1% chance, but in the time I was like, nah, dude, there's no way it's 1% chance. I'm about to beat this guy tomorrow.
Should we be concerned then that the UDIS probability going into DMC has you at less than a 1% chance of winning? Should we all be on watch that Parker is going to go out there and go back to back?
I mean, nobody's ever done that before from someone like me. No one's even done one of it. But I don't know, man. I'm feeling pretty good about this tournament as well. We'll see if the putter's on. We'll see if I can keep it in the fairway, out of the water. But I'm feeling like I'll be doing pretty good this week.
All right. Pet peeves. This is a fan favorite. Everyone loves to hear what kind of gets under players' skin. What are things they go through? I got a new one, Yuli. You ready for this one?
Mm-hmm.
The speech that we get prior to teeing off on hole 1. We got to cut that out. We got to cut that out. I don't want to know about karaoke that's going on later. I don't want to know about the putting contest that I'm not entered in. I don't want to know about all these things I don't want to know about any of this stuff. right before I tee off. It's like sometimes it's 15 seconds. No, it's never 15 seconds. What am I talking about? It's always like 2+ minutes. I just want scorecard. Who's keeping score? Da 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 da. Thank you guys so much. Let's get it going. That's my new pet peeve is sitting there and having to hear about karaoke later that night and I don't know. Maybe
anybody
again,
after listening to karaoke, they actually went. They're like, "Dang, that's pretty good."
I hope not. But maybe and again, I might be in the minority here, but like to me, it's like when I step on hole one, it's I don't know. It just sometimes feels like it gets dragged on for way too long, and I'm like, bro, I'm already nervous. I just want to throw. Like the last thing I want to hear about this. So, so what do you got, Parker? What pet peeves do you have?
Okay, so it kind of bugs me when on live coverage when and I love Philo, and Ian, both of them. They've done coverage for me before, but when Philo was saying about my shots, like, "Oh, that looks horrible, man. That looks bad. It's gonna hit a tree and it's just perfect underneath the basket." It's like, why are you calling that out? Why? But it's whatever. It doesn't make. I mean,
that's a good
I don't want
pet
to be on
peeve.
Philo's bad side or anything. I love that guy.
That is a good
That's
pet
a
peeve.
good pet peeve. Yeah, it is. Of them being like, "Oh, that's the worst shot ever," but it's like a wrong angle or something, and then it's like perfect. You know what I mean?
And the question is like,
He was 16 when he said it. He's like, "Oh, that's got to get down."
I was watching.
You're like, I got that thing on a string, dude. I know what's up.
Any other ones, or is that it? That's you have one pet peeve. Give us a fun one.
I don't know, man. I wish you guys would text me this question before so I could really think about it. But
all right, I'll give you my question. Out of all the people that you play with on tour, I know you hang out with a very talented crew. Who out there do you look at their game and you're like, that game's nice? Like I like when players come on here and they give a little shout out to another player of whether it's Gannon's putt or distance or smooth or personality or whatever mental game. Like who out there do you like part of their game?
Well, you're saying part of your game instead of all your game. I was thinking about like who is such a well-rounded player that I try to mimic.
It can be that.
Well, I mean, I got to say Paul Macbeth for if it's all aspects, the way he carries himself around the course and the way he acts, he's the GOAT. I mean, I always want to be like Paul. That's who I strive to be, but it's a lot, man. But if there's one thing about one person's game, it's got to be Jake Wolf's sidearm and overhand and all that stuff. You guys know about Jake Wolf.
I love that. Yes. That's our first Jake Wolf shout out, man. That's awesome. It's wild playing with that guy, dude. It's wild. I played with him a few times.
With him round one.
Really? We stopped on hole 18. He was teeing off on hole 16, and we like stopped. And I was like, guys, you got to watch this. And he goes up, and he's got 2 discs, and he does his like, his warm up where he's just like drops the 1 disc, and then literally throws this tomahawk. And I swear, if there was a hallway, if there was a 5 foot wide hallway from the tee to the basket, it never left. It never hit the wall. It just stayed in this 5 foot and then almost dunked on top of it. And I was like, all right, this dude, if he could figure out his putting, he would be in contention and a force at some of these tournaments, because his throws on some of these upshots, me and Ezra played with him at Portland. He's like 200 feet away, just throwing tomahawks that are like clanking off the band. And you're just like, he makes it look so easy. So that's a good call out. That's a good call out for sure. You got anything else?
That's all I got, man. Pleasure watching you this last week, and good luck, obviously, in the Moines Challenge. Let's do it again, man. Run it back.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. Good luck to you guys as well.
All right, brother. Take it easy. All right, there we have it. your 2023 DDO champion, taking it down. Dude, I gotta tell you, I mean, just the energy that he gave off, it was kind of like unfortunate that the crowd was kind of a dud, and we're gonna get into that. But imagine that guy playing in front of a couple thousand people, how nuts would go. Like, I don't know what he would do.
Right.
I don't know what he would do. Like he legitimately might jump on top of the basket and then do a backflip off of it. Like I'm not.
Right. Well, I think that's part of it. Like, I think that's part of the reason why people are so locked in is because the crowd gets crazy wild with some things, and you gotta, you can't let that get in there. You can use it to like kind of push, but a lot of times I think what happens is you kind of got to push the crowd away and kind of just be there by yourself. So you're right. I think it would have been an absolute, oh my gosh, wreck, like Phoenix Open type vibe with him doing those things.
Yeah, just like ripping off his shirt and just like waving around like a helicopter or something. I don't know. And we honestly need more people that do show that emotion, because I think right now a lot of players, up and coming players, like look to see what like other people are doing, and they're like, oh, I need to behave this way. And I think what he said was so true, where he said, I didn't play good last year at this tournament because I was trying to play someone else's game. He said, I'm playing my game. And I think he also, on top of that, it was like, I'm just going to be who I am out in the course as well. And it worked out for him very, very well, obviously, taking down the win. So we'll keep an eye on him, see what he can do in the future as well. But again, another just shows you that the field is getting deeper and deeper. We're having guys that are, not even the top 50 in the world coming out and winning. Like that would be an insane thing to have happen, years ago. And we're seeing, multiple people put themselves in contention now. So love it. All right. We're going to get Hailey King here soon to join in. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about the 2023 President's Cup team. It was just announced. This is we'll have the list here pop up on the screen in a second. I know Silas is trying to get Hailey in here, but Team USA captain Nate Sexton. You got Katrina Allen, Missy Gannon, Gannon Burr, Paul Macbeth, Eagle McMahon, Ricky Wysocki. Then you have a fan's choice. Then you have a captain's choice, and then you have Paige Pierce and Calvin Heimberg on reserve. There was a lot of chatter online about why the heck is Calvin not on this team? Like, why is Calvin a reserve? Also, there was some comments of like, they were basically saying like Calvin should replace Paul. Here's the thing. And again, I think some of these things just like aren't really well known to the general public. Like I had no idea what was going on. So I texted Nate to try to get some idea of like what's happening. And this is basically what he told me. He said, how it works is 4 men and 2 women are selected based off of last year's 2022 year-end world ranking on UDisc. So if you go back and look last year, those were the top 4 guys. You had Gannon, Paul, Eagle, and Ricky. That's your top 4 right there. And that's just how it works. Now, on the European side, you have Naibo as the captain, which I think is going to be awesome. He's going to bring the energy for sure. Then you have Hannah, Kristen, Nicholas, Linus, Vino, Laurie, and then the fans' choice, captain's choice, Evelina. And I believe how do you pronounce it? Yana? Is it Yana? Yona. That's right. Yona. Sorry about that. That's what we're looking at for the fans' choice. On the Team USA side, you're going to be voting for Calvin Heimberg, Matty O, Chris Dickerson, Kyle Klein, or AB. On the Europe side, you're voting for Yona, Jakob, Mari, Yessi, Mikkel, and Albert Tom. And one of those players will get in on the team. This is something that I would love to see kind of built up a little bit more. Like it doesn't really seem like it does. It doesn't really get that much hype. Like, I don't know. No,
I agree. I think that, I don't know, in my whole, it's crazy because in my whole entire career, President's Cup are like the highest of the high for me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like
I look
think it
at
would be
that as
awesome.
like that's like my main best thing that's ever happened to me is playing for my country, getting the win. When I look at the players, I think it's obvious what's going to happen. I think that what needs to happen is he needs his captain's choice to be Calvin, and then the reserve needs to be replaced because Calvin's going to be on there. Fan vote, I don't know who that's going to be. I know I voted for Anthony Barella and I voted for Jakob. So that's who I voted for. But I think that Calvin will be on there and then fan votes, whatever, and somebody's going to be in the reserve.
Okay. And I believe this takes place the day before the European Open.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So keep an eye on that. It should be good. And, Team Europe in years past has kind of gotten slapped. And I think they're starting to build a little bit more of a competitive team, if you will. And I think this season, it might be a little bit closer this season than years past. So we will keep an eye on that. But without further ado, we do have Hailey King with us now. So let's bring in your 2023 DDO champion, Hailey King. Welcome to Tour Life. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
Are you in Des Moines right now?
Yep, I got in a little bit earlier this morning.
Okay. Have you had a chance to play the course?
Nope, I had 30-hour drive, so I decided to take the day off. Yeah.
Not a bad idea. Is that 30-hour drive a little bit easier after having a win? A little quicker?
Oh yeah, definitely. It gives you a little boost of energy, gets you home real quick.
That's awesome. Okay, so the first question I have, Hailey, because this is something that I have struggled to understand, because to me, I always want to know where I'm at. I always want to know what the score is. What do I have to do? What are people doing around me? You said in your interview that you had no idea that putt that you made on 18 was to force a playoff. Do you never kind of follow scores? Is that kind of like, if you're in contention, do you not look at scores? If you're out of contention, do you look at scores?
I mean, it really depends on feeling. I checked scores way earlier, like through the final round, and I was pretty far out of it at that point, so I just didn't look again. And I knew that if I look again, I'm going to put too much pressure on myself. So I saw that I was down and didn't want to look again.
Okay. Do you think, if anything, let's throw a scenario out there. Let's just throw a crazy scenario. Let's say on like hole 18, you didn't need to make that putt to win. You could have laid up to win. And you try to make the putt, it hits the basket, it rolls OB. You find out later that, oh man, if I would have laid up, I would have won. Would something like that happening, would that change your idea that, checking scores or not checking scores? Or are you still okay with just playing without knowing where you're at? I
think I would still rather play without knowing where I'm at, because I think if I play my game, I'll win regardless of what happens. I went for it on 18 because I knew I could make the putt and I felt confident. So I wasn't going to change up my game plan at that point.
What are you going to do when they have like massive leaderboards all over the course? You just got to put like blinders up.
Yeah, I am, when I'm disc golfing, I don't notice anything. I'm very chill in my own world.
Have you ever had like a player come up to you like in a tournament, be like, "Oh my God, Hailey, you're winning the tournament, doing awesome," and you're just like, "Oh my God, stop telling me what the scores are."
That's definitely happened, and I'm like, okay, cool.
Well, yeah, we'll get to the pet peeves at the end, but I think I just found another pet peeve, Yuli, of where it's like you're even par through 7, and someone like opens up their phone, they're like, "Oh my God, Yuli's 10 under through 10, he's shredding," and you're just like, "Okay, man, okay, I don't need to know that right now. I'm good." All right. One thing I want to talk about, because this is something that's been mentioned just on our podcast, on Grip Locked and on here. If you're just doing the eye test, if you're just watching you throw the disc, and if you're just watching you putt, and you're not looking at the scores, you're not looking at the leaderboard, if I'm just looking at the eye test, your game looks better than everyone else's. The way you throw, the way you putt looks above everyone else's. What do you feel like you have to do so that you can consistently kind of be in the mix at, more tournaments? Is there something that you can point out of where you're like, this is the thing that I've been struggling with?
Well, I think I'm definitely I think I'm one of the most inconsistent players in FPO for sure. But I think really I just need time to grow up and, experience real life. And I know I've been on tour for a couple of years now, but I'm still 21 years old. I still feel like a kid, So I think just getting that time, actually growing up and settling into my brain's still going crazy,
Should players be worried then that once you figure it out, once you kind of get settled in a little bit, as you call it, I mean, are you just going to be going out there and winning everything?
I mean, I think there's a really good chance, but who's to say?
With your own game, but since we all see that, because we, like you said, we've talked about that a lot to where we're just like, where's Hailey King at? Like, she's got the best sidearm, she's got the best form, she's got the best putt. What do you feel like? Do you feel like when you play your game, are you like, I am the best player without a doubt? Like, where is your mind at? Or do you look at other people and you're like, oh, I'm not even close to that person or this person? Because like, I've always been curious, like what's going in your mind with like, do you know how talented you are?
Do you know how good you are?
I'm not a really cocky person. I'm confident in myself, but I'm not cocky at all. So I do think overall, I think I'm probably the best FPO player to play the game, but I think there's a lot of key components that are missing from that. So like Kristen Tatar, I look up to Kristen because she's the most consistent player that I think have seen in FPO. And she doesn't throw like much further. I don't think she throws further than me. I think I outdrive her on both.
No, you definitely throw
and
farther.
Backhand.
Yeah, you definitely throw farther.
But it's like she doesn't go OB. I've already gone OB like 70 times this year. Just little stupid stuff like that a lot of players don't do. But yeah, I think in my prime, or not my prime, but I think when I'm on, I think I can definitely be unstoppable.
Love that. What is your like practice regimen? Like how often do you practice? What do you do like outside of just playing the course? What does it look like?
It's different when I'm on tour and like when I'm home. So when I'm on tour, I only play one round a day, and I usually do it in the morning. We tee off in the morning, so I like to get that morning practice in. But when I'm done practicing, I like to get food right away, and then I'll go back and I'll just putt a little bit, but I try to keep it really simple, making sure that I'm stretching more than anything. I've been playing disc golf since I was, I think, maybe 11 or 12 years old. So I know how to putt a disc. I know how to throw a disc. I've been doing it for 10 years now. So I just have to make sure that my body's in play. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I saw on Instagram you would be posting like those over the off season where you're like putting from inside your house outside. That's a pretty nice little setup when it's cold, a little cold outside. You can kind of stay inside and get that putt through the door or whatever. That's dope. It reminds me of like some of those golfers that have like the sick driving range in their backyard where they can just like open up their door and just hit golf balls out. Like that's the dream, is just to be able to have like that setup where you can be like in a close place and putt or throw shots. What were your thoughts on the course as a whole on the FPO side? I always love kind of getting an insight from you guys. I don't obviously get to play the course, so it's really hard for me to kind of see, did the course play well? Did it not play well? What were your feelings out there? And then if you can touch on maybe some of the new holes that were towards the middle of the course that were formed, if you like those and if you see like any changes.
Yeah, so I mean, I think DDO is probably one of the more scoreable courses for FPO. I don't want to say it's soft because in the wind it's definitely not soft, but I think on perfect days there are many FPO players that can shoot 18 if not 20 down. So I mean, I was in practice runs, I was shooting 12 and 13. So it really isn't. it's not that tough of a course, but I think in tournament play, it's obviously different in the wind and stuff like that. But I do think the changes that they made this year are pretty good. I think they're moving in the right direction, but I still think a couple of the holes are just like, where's MPO's tee pad? Let's make it a little bit shorter instead of like actually creating a hole. But sure. I do think the new holes are, I think they're pretty good. Like I think it's hole 11, that short one for us. Instead of just putting it right in the gap, they put it so we had to throw a hyzer on low ceiling. So I thought that was pretty good. And then hole 10, I really like that change. I did previously really like last year's hole 10. I think that was, or last year's hole 11. But I think the combining the two holes was really good because it forced us to throw 2 good shots.
Did you think hole 13 was not maybe the best hole for the entire field, of where, to me, par is irrelevant, right? It's like, if it's a par 3, par 4, par 5, who really cares? It's more about the score separation and how that hole played for you guys. Do you feel like that was a hole that maybe they should have looked to make a little bit more changes for you guys?
Yeah, I think that hole, I don't want to call it a dumb hole, but I feel like it was a dumb hole.
No, you can say dumb. We allow that. We allow dumb holes to be called out here.
Yeah, I think I was the only FPL player that was going straight over, through that little gap. Everyone else, even Ella was throwing a roller to get up there, and it was like everyone was scoring the same on the hole. I think what they had previously, a couple of years ago on hole 13, that was a way better hole because OB was right there. You had to get around the bush, and you had to make a good putt for birdie. But yeah, this year's hole 13, I think, was a bad one. Yeah.
Do you like?
I'm curious, go,
Yuli. Go.
Yeah, with your game, we've asked this question a few times to people on here, and obviously being like one of the farther throwers in FPO, do you like the style of like traditional golf course, that style, or would you consider yourself like better in the woods?
Honestly, I don't really know. I love all sorts of disc golf. I'm probably like one of the worst people to ask that question.
No, that's interesting because the reason I ask it is most people that I say that, like Anthony Barella, for instance, like obviously he throws it farther than everybody, and he says he would rather play in the woods, which is kind of crazy to me because of the advantage that he has, like on an open course.
Yeah, that is crazy. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I have no preference.
I saw might just be some random tweet I saw, but did you mention anywhere that you were like bored with this course at all, or was that just a random tweet that was not saying correct information?
I think it was misquoted. I felt like I was playing boring golf. I wasn't. Okay. I mean, I do honestly when I play disc golf, half the time I am bored, but yeah, the course definitely isn't boring. It's a roller coaster the whole time.
That's funny because that was one of my questions. Like watching you play, you seem so stoic, and it's so hard when I'm watching like FPO coverage. Like I can't tell if you're nervous, if you're bored, if you're just like in your own world and you're so focused. What is a mindset for you like going down the stretch? Are the nerves crazy? You obviously didn't know the scores, but like battling, it was super close. At any point, are you nervous? Are you excited? Like, what's Hailey King's mind doing, and how are you feeling in those moments?
I mean, going from like hole 14, that final round, I was kind of angry, I guess, because I knew I fell behind very early on. I didn't exactly know the scores. I just knew that she was way further than me, and she was still playing clean. So I was pretty angry that I didn't kick it into gear yet, right? But then when we got into the playoff, the second I was told that I was in the playoff, I was like, okay, now I'm excited, and I was ready to go. So,
do you sometimes, because we see all different sides to me, okay, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. To me, it feels like on the FPO side, there is like more talking with each other. Like we sometimes see you guys playing card games. We see you bust out the hacky sack. Is that something that helps you in between, like during backups or in between holes? Is that something that you look to try to do to kind of keep your mind off the actual disc golf? Or is that something where you're just like, if you're with three people, because like Kristen Tatar, for example, she's not going to be someone that is going to join you in playing hacky sack in between holes. So is that something that if you were on a card with three other people that are like, hey, I'm just doing my own thing, don't talk to me, does that make it more difficult than being on a card where you're like able to goof around and talk kind of in between?
Honestly, I don't really let my card mates like vibes. I don't let the card like mess with me and my feelings. So normally, like if Cap Merch or Missy Gannon is on the card, like we're going to be laughing the whole time. We're going to be playing hacky sack. We're going to be messing around. But if I'm on a card with Kristen and Ella or Holland or something like that, it's going to be a very serious round. But I'm still going to go walk off, do a couple pull-ups, push-ups, and hacky sack around. So, yeah.
That's good. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, what are your thoughts? We talked about a little bit before you came on here. What are your thoughts on hole 16 as a playoff? When you found out that you're going in a playoff and they're like, all right, head to hole 16, what's going on here? Like, did you like that hole as the playoff hole?
For my personal opinion, I absolutely love that hole, but there's a whole reason behind it. When I first started playing disc golf, before I watched any YouTube coverage of anything, I was putting in my basement for, I don't know, probably 5 to 6 hours a day, and I was imagining hole 16 over and over and over again. So for me, I was like, heck yeah, I've practiced this shot thousands of times, right? I'm ready for this. Let's go. But in the tournament play, I'm not really sure if it was the best idea. I think it worked well with, like, we interrupted the MPO card. So I think it was probably a good choice, or else we would have held up so many other cards.
Yeah, that is to me, I think that sometimes sucks, because I think that is in their head of, if FPO does have a playoff, MPO is on the on the course. So where can we put them? Like, where can we have the playoff to where it's not going to interrupt play as much? Like, I wish that wasn't the case. And that leads me to the question, do you like having tournaments where FPO and MPO play separate courses?
I don't know, because I do think that a lot of our fans are coming to watch MPO and FPO. I don't think they're just coming to watch FPO. So I think for the sport and for just the fun of it, I do like playing the MPO courses. I like seeing all you guys on tour. I mean, I play Fortnite with Hailey all the time, so it's like, it's good to see him in person, you know?
What about if it was like a Texas State situation of where you're not necessarily playing a course on this side of town and a course on this side of town? You have two courses on the same property, so you can still have the fans go watch FPO in the morning, and then all they have to do is walk to the other side of the park and there's MPO.
Okay, I did not know that happened at States this year, but I think that's probably a really good compromise. That way we get our own little course and we don't mess with each other's practice times and stuff like that. It's probably the way we should head in the future of the sport.
To me, it just seems like in the future, it's going to be easier, because how you kind of mentioned, I feel like that happens a lot, where the course is set up for MPO and then they're like, oh, this is too long for FPO. Okay, we'll just put the basket shorter, or we'll just make a shorter tee pad. And there's not really a thought process of landing zones and where the trouble is and where the risk reward is. And if you have like separate courses set up for FPO and MPO, I think it's going to be easier for the tournament directors, course designers to actually have a course that you step up and you don't feel like let's be honest, hole 2 for you guys at Emporia, like what is that? Like, what is that?
I agree.
Holland turfed their drive and still ended up making birdie, right? Like, what are we doing here? So that's where I think it could lead to more excitement moving forward. And talking about excitement, one thing that we see a lot in FPO is 2 players, 3 players, whatever it may be, coming down to the end, and you're just waiting for someone to like mess up, miss a putt, throw OB, and then it's like, oh, well, the other person's going to win. That didn't happen in this tournament. Like, you guys were going back and forth, blow to blow, and you end on hole 18 where one of you makes an eagle and the other one makes a birdie. Is that something that we can kind of maybe see more of as the field gets deeper and deeper, as more players get put in these positions? We're not going to see maybe the what we've seen in the past of where it's like someone kind of just cracks under pressure and like misses a putt or throws something OB.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to see a lot more of that in the future. Like, we've seen this year already, within the last, I guess ever since COVID happened, there's now like easily 10 women on the Pro Tour who can win any given weekend. Obviously, we have our favorites, but there's a lot of women on tour now who are showing up every single weekend, and they're in the top 3. Helen Hanley, for example, she's very close. She's due for a win this week, or not this week, but this year she's going to get one.
Like, wait a second, I'm playing this tournament. She's not due for she's not due for a win this week. Statmando came out with this stat, which I think is really cool to see. It's the best win rate for FPO majors in elite since October 2020. It has Kristen Tatar at the top, Paige Pierce just behind her, and then you and Katrina Allen. Do you feel like right now, like that is still the cream of the crop, those 4 players, as far as the favorites coming in? And is there anyone not on this list that you're like, this is someone that I need to kind of keep my eye on moving forward?
I don't know. I kind of agree with the list because those people have still won a bunch of events this year and they know how to win. I mean, they're veterans. We all know them. But I do think Valerie Mandujano should probably be on that list. She's one of the newer people. I mean, she's came up. She won her first Pro Tour wins were last year, I think, and she got injured and she's still shooting well. She's coming back out, but yeah, I think it's cool to be up there. I don't know.
Keep an eye out for Val. Yeah, whenever you can have those 3 names and be a part of a list like that, it's a cool list to be a part of.
I want to take you back real quick to the playoff because I got first to see your last playoff firsthand because you guys went into hole 10 and I teed off pretty dang early over there at Jonesboro. So after that happened and you end up losing to Cap Merch, going into this playoff, what were your feelings like? What was it able to be like, okay, it's my time, or did any of those feelings of that loss creep back into your mind, or were you able to kind of block that and it never even came up?
Yeah, it
or
definitely
like, oh,
never
here we go again. I'm in another playoff. Like, what the heck,
Yeah, no, I didn't think of Jonesboro at all. It kind of left my mind. Yeah, I was focused and I was excited to get into the playoff.
Nice.
All right, a few more questions and then we'll let you go, Hailey, because it's getting a little bit on the late side. So we just threw you on a list with arguably what's, I would say right now, 2 people that could go back and forth as the greatest female player of all time. You have Paige Pierce, Kristen Tatar. What goals do you have for the rest of the season and for your career in disc golf?
I don't know. That's something that I've always had struggle trying to think about and like actually set a goal. The only thing I know I want to do is win at least one world championship, but I think I'm still extremely focused on my physical health rather than disc golf necessarily. So I don't know. I love disc golf, of course, but I'm out here because one, it's my job, but I want to be playing disc golf, but I'm not 100% focused on disc golf. I'm focused on my body while I'm playing. So my goal this year isn't to win any events. It's just to make sure that I'm physically in shape to be playing disc golf and see how I play based on that. So I just want to keep playing well. And yeah, I know if I have energy, there's a good chance I can win. So, yeah.
Does that mindset change at all with, money legacy, anything like that? With that mindset of just like, hey, I'm just out here trying to be healthy and play, and whatever happens, does that change if other stuff kind of comes into the equation of where it's just like, hypothetical, let's say Des Moines Challenge and every elite event moving forward, the winner takes home $50,000. Are you now all of a sudden like, wait a second, like I need to, I want to go out and win 5 times this year? Does that matter? Does money matter to you? Does your legacy of, I want to go down 50 years from now and people look back and be like, Hailey King was one of the best FPO players of all time? Does any of that stuff matter to you? Or are you just kind of happy with kind of, like you said, just kind of writing it out and just focusing on your health?
Yeah, obviously money is great, but I would rather not win events this year so I can win every event next year, because I know if I'm in shape, there's a good chance I'm going to win a lot of events. So I'm more long-term thinking because I want to play this sport for a long time. And the only legacy, I guess, that I want to leave behind is just how much I can impact the sport. I don't care about clout, fame, whatever you want to call it. I just want to meet people all over the world and just share my love for the game and, connect people who share the same love.
Funny story. I after my round, this dad with his son came up to me, and the kid, gave me a Frisbee to sign. His dad was like talking about how his kid was like basically wanting to come to the tournament to watch me play. But then he said, he watched Hailey King, and Hailey King gave him his putter after the round, and now he's like, Hailey King's my favorite player, and I just want to watch Hailey King play. So you definitely are having impacts on people out there. I mean, the kid's smile when I'm sure when he got that putter from you is probably massive. So keep doing that stuff and keep obviously pushing not just yourself but also the FPO field, right? We talked about before the way your form looks and the way you throw. I think that bodes really well for the future of FPO, young players looking at you and seeing what is possible and having them kind of push forward. So keep being awesome and all that. All right, final question I have for you. Fan favorite, pet peeves. I mentioned earlier another pet peeve that I had in mind. So do you have anything that kind of jumps out at you as things that you just can't stand while you're on the course, off the course, any of those things?
My biggest pet peeve is easily backups and having to wait in tournament. I don't care in practice rounds what's going to happen, but in the tournament, it just really bugs me. I don't know.
Hailey, will you sign the petition that I want to put out that says, players, please walk faster? Will you sign that petition?
Yes.
Okay.
And maybe don't practice putt at in a practice round. You don't have to practice your putt during the round. That's what the practice baskets are for off the course.
Additional petition as well is, if we all just played a 200-foot par 3 and everyone threw it to 2 feet and we all tapped in for birdie, we don't need to go to the next tee and say, Yuli, what'd you get? 2? Okay. Hailey, what'd you get? 2? Okay. We can just be like, hey, we all got 2s. Move on. Sometimes I think these small things in tournament rounds, they add up when people just take forever, and it makes, a round that probably should take like 2.5 hours, take 3.5 hours. So I'm all for pace of play. So I love that answer by you, Hailey. Yuli, you got anything else?
Yeah. Question I ask our guests is, out of all the people that you play with, what part of somebody's game or their whole game, doesn't matter, do you look at and you're like, oh man, that's really good? Or is it you look at your own game and you're like, I got it all?
I mean, I mentioned this before, I look at Kristen Tatar as one of the best to play because of the fact that she's so consistent. Do I see, I wouldn't trade any of her skills for mine besides, I want her consistency. But I look at someone like Paige Pierce and Ella and Holland, honestly, all 3 of those ladies, they really know how to throw a backhand drive. It impresses me. I don't know how they do it. I've been trying to learn, still learning, and that's one thing that really shocks me. And just, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, Parker said same thing. He said I look at Macbeth's consistency, and he's who I would pick. Great answers. Great answers.
Yeah, well, awesome. Hailey, we appreciate you so much taking your time to coming on here. I know you'll probably sleep well after that long drive, and hopefully you enjoy the course. They made some awesome changes this year, so hopefully you go out there and enjoy that practice round tomorrow, and good luck this week at DMC.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys, and good luck to you guys as well.
Appreciate it. All right, your 2023 DDO FPO champion, Hailey King. Very interesting. When we're the most interesting thing she said, I think, was the goals. Yeah. Like someone with her skill level, I was ready for like, yeah, I want to win. I want to win 5 worlds. I want to win 10 majors. I want to consistently win on tour. And she just went with the I just want to be healthy. Very interesting. And I know that probably is maybe because like some injuries have plagued her in the past, right? She just wants to be able to make it through a full season.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cryptic. And what I took from it is she said she was humble before, and she doesn't like to brag, or she likes to stay humble. But what she said was, I know, this is what I took from it. I know that if I'm healthy next year, I can win every single tournament.
Yeah.
And so this, to me, what that says is, like, if I get healthy and I'm strong, especially when she was talking about her own form, she's like, I can win all these tournaments. So I think, a lot of players are like that. They don't like to boast, and they don't like to be like, no, here's my goals. It's more motivation inside. And I would like to think maybe, and I could be completely wrong with this, I usually am, but I would like to think that that's what she's thinking is, listen, if I'm healthy, like, it's going to be a completely different story next year. And it sounds like she is goal oriented this year. Mm-hmm. I want to focus on my health. However I play is how I play, but the big picture is next year.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye and see what happens next year. I want to run through this real quick. Just this tournament, whenever we play on golf courses, we're always going to get the OG wooded kind of disc golfers to hate on the courses. We're expecting that always. This tournament felt like we got a little bit more than other tournaments, and was that maybe because the crowd was a little bit smaller than in the past and all these things? I'm not entirely sure, but I do want to talk about the spectators, though, because that was mentioned a little bit. Some people brought that up. There's a photo, which I first want to talk about. This photo is not the best description or depiction of the crowd because of the angle of the camera on these. The fans on hole 16 are all tucked kind of where the 2021 picture is. That's where the majority of the fans are. So you played later in the day than I did, Yuli. Did it look anything like the 2021 photo? Because to me, it kind of looked a little bit like the 2022 photo of how many fans were there.
It didn't seem like there was a lot, honestly, but I can let me try to defend it just a little bit. So the first thing is, usually at DDO, there's also an AM tournament going on.
Yes.
And so that's where we lose a lot of players. One. Mm-hmm. Second thing is, even though Emporia is, it's been called the capital of disc golf and all this stuff. Like, you go to this town, it's crazy. There's disc golf everywhere. It's in front of McDonald's. It's next to Arby's. It's in front of a, convenience store. There's baskets like in every yard that you could possibly imagine. It is a disc golf town, but it's a disc golf town that's small, way outside of Kansas City. So it is a long drive for you to go, okay, I'm going to take an hour and a half out of my day, hour and a half back. I'm going to take my kids for a day this day or whatever. And the second or the third thing is, I think as the game grows and as popularity grow with the players, a lot of groups are going to be going with different players. Now, typically it's going to be lead card, but one thing I saw this weekend was there was obviously most of the people are watching lead card, but like there was people watching my card, and then there's people watching there's pockets of getting pulled around, which never used to happen. It was always lead card, we're watching lead card, and a couple stragglers. That would be my like defending of what happened, but
there's a few other points if I can add to why I feel like this tournament. I think obviously the main one was the AM tournament. When you have that's clear. When you have a tournament that's out in the middle of nowhere, you got to have a better reason than just to come watch disc golf to entice people to drive in. The AM tournament was that reason. Not having that, big no. There was also Father's Day weekend. I don't think right now, the way that disc golf is set up, it really is like, oh, I'm going to bring my son out to the disc golf course and we're going to have like a good Father's Day today. It's not really set up that way right now. Also, no Paul, no Simon, no Eagle. That matters. That's a big one. Paul's there. You might have 50 people drive in to go watch Paul. Paul not being there, those people might not be driving in. Another one is, I do think these ticket prices are an issue. I haven't really looked into it prior to this tournament. I really haven't looked into the ticket prices, but this is what I was told. I was told for DDO this year, it was $100 for a 3-day pass or $40 per day. For Worlds in 2022, for a 5-day pass, it was $100 or $40 a day. I don't think Worlds and DDO are on the same scale. To me, I don't think those should be the same price at all. And then also, I did talk to some people on Twitter to get an idea of like, hey, what are you guys actually getting with your $40? Like, what if you paid $40 to show up? What does that look like? Well, you have to pay for parking, or you park in some random spot and walk in. There's some porta potties for you out in the course. And you can watch a couple holes of disc golf. And and you can buy a hot dog at, I think there was like a food truck that you could buy a hot dog at. That's what your $40 got you. That's a tough sell when you can go to a Major League Baseball game for $40 for less than that. You can go to other professional sporting events for around the same price or less, and the amount of entertainment you're getting and the facilities that you have are way higher. Is the price right now for disc golf way too high? I mean, it wasn't that long ago, Yuli, that we were charging $0 for people to come to these events.
Is it way too high? It depends on the amenities. Honestly, it depends on what you're getting. I think that a place like Portland could charge that much because of the atmosphere that's provided, because of the course is nicer, because of there was a tents set up to where you have different things you can do. They had
OTB. There was more stuff to do. European Open, then they have that cool big TV that they bring in that you can hang out and watch. There's a lot of stuff.
Right. This place didn't have that. So I do think that the price was too high for this in particular. Now, for other courses, I think just like anything, venue matters. I'm not going to pay as much to go watch a tournament in Texas for the Shell Open than I would to go to Torrey Pines. You know what I mean? I'm going to pay more for the nicer place. With that being said, I thought that the course was in the best shape it's ever been, and I thought it was I thought it played well, honestly. I thought that as far as a fan, though, that's for me as a player. As far as a fan, it's hot out there, man. It's hot. There's no trees. Yeah. I want to see, what I would love to see in disc golf is you have little pockets of places where you can go. You set up a little bar in the middle to where you can go, a pavilion or whatever, to where you go, you get a drink and you can watch 3 holes. And there's these little pockets of places. There's another place that might have like a speed gun that you walk and you're like, oh, here, I'll take my boy over here or my girl to do the speed gun, and then you can buy a disc or whatever. I would love to see more of that, to where it's more of an event than just watching the player, because you get there early. You don't want to walk let's say they're a big fan of Brody, and then they want to watch the lead card, and they wanted to watch FPO in the morning.
You can't do it all.
Dude, that walk is nuts, man.
It's
up and down, and it's hot. It was a hot weekend. So that would be my answer. I would say venue matters, and it was probably overpriced, especially being in Emporia. You have to drive in from Kansas City. If I'm there in Emporia, I'm paying the money. I'm going to go watch it. I don't think the price is really going to matter until it gets like crazy high.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I would say.
All right, a few other things to talk about. Des Moines Challenge is this week. This is my number one course. Not necessarily like what I think is the best course or what I think is the course that should be holding majors. It's my number one course where the people in charge, the community, the local, whatever, they take pride in making this course better year after year. We got here last year and I was like, oh my gosh, the changes they made, like that tee box they made on 7, on hole 3, the new hole. I'm like, holy cow, this is insane. If they didn't make any changes this year, I would be like, oh, it's fine, whatever. They now have grown out the grass on hole 1, which is also kind of connects to hole 2. That changes the look of that hole changes completely. It looks so good now with the long grass.
Agreed.
Than before. And talking with some of the grounds crew people there, like it's not easy. They're talking about how much extra work it is to maintain that tall grass. Than before, you just had the mowers kind of mow everything, and you just throw the posts up of like, oh, you're OB, you're not OB. So I want to give a shout out. I found the person in the club that are responsible for this. So I want to give a shout out. I'm going to butcher his last name, but it's Ty Tannett, I believe, Tannatt, Tannett, and the DSM Disc Golf Club. Those are the people that are responsible for all the work that you see. So when you guys are watching live coverage, or if you're watching Jomez this week and you're seeing this course, and you're like, holy cow, this course looks incredible. It's amazing. Look at the mulch they have on hole 5. It looks insane. Those are the people to thank. And I think sometimes we take
17.
Oh, the new. Yeah.
They put in 2 bridges.
I was gonna say, not only did they put in a completely new tee pad with rocks and and all these different kind of concrete things around, they put 2 bridges in to make that walk super nice. And I mean, they are willing to spend money, make the course a lot better. And I think sometimes as players, we take that a little bit for granted. We just like show up to a course and we expect everything to be nice. I don't even want to. I mean, let's not even mention the fact that how much water they have on the course. They don't just have jugs of water. They have literally water bottles in ice. And I know that sounds like that's not a big deal, but that is a big deal. That makes a huge difference, especially with how hot it is out there. So Des Moines Challenge is always a tournament that I look forward to every year. And like I said, I think it is the best course as far as the people putting in the work to make it better and better year and year after. So it should be like the pinnacle of what other courses look for, of like, how can we make our course look better? They should look at what they do at Des Moines and try to replicate it.
That's a great shout out.
Okay. Euro Tour Disc Golf, Konopiste, the Paul Macbeth tracker went down. You have Rachel Turton, which we actually mentioned her, I believe, a couple weeks ago as having like a decent finish. It might have been Portland. I don't know what event. I can't remember what event. But she ends up taking down the FPO division. And then you have Nicolas Antilla coming back. Antala. Thank you, Jerem. Sorry. Antala. Nicolas Antala taking down the MPO side. First tournament back on European soil. So he comes back and takes it down. We did have... might be one of the crazier rounds this year. Paul Macbeth setting the new course record, 14 under par during round 2. There was some sort of bad weather going on, so it kind of pushed back all the rounds, and they set like the world or their course record or the European record for like the fastest round. This is a photo of Paul, I believe, on hole 18. And I'll do what most commentators do is it is darker outside than the images the camera is showing you. So that they basically played in the middle of the night. not in the middle of the night, but in darkness. I think Nicholas said something along the lines of like on hole 18, he couldn't see the basket outside of like 20 feet. So pretty crazy finishing there. And shout outs to both of them for taking it down. Last thing, Aaron Gossage and Germ. I don't know if you wanted to actually jump on here because you were a part of this video. And so I don't mind you guys giving a little back and forth. Aaron Gossage, hot take on the Jomez practice round, said that Maple Hill is one of the worst courses we play on tour. He says that there's not enough decision making on a course that doesn't have a lot of par fours and par fives. Yuli, for the people that didn't really maybe see that, or you guys didn't really maybe have the chance to expound more on it, what is your thoughts on Maple Hill being one of the worst courses we play?
Okay. I love Maple Hill. I haven't missed a year in forever unless I was injured. It is one of my favorite places to play on tour, without a doubt. My only take is every year, it seems like, they have the rankings of the best courses that we play, and it's always number one. And I push back on that because of a few things. The first thing is it's a tree farm. So the course changes every year depending on how many people go to get a Christmas tree. That's mind-blowing to me.
You just don't like Christmas then, really?
No. I love Christmas. It just makes the course way easier every single year. Now, hole 1 changes every single year by Christmas trees growing, then they chop them down. My next thing is hole 1's landing area. This is the other thing. Hole 1 was the best starting hole ever, right? It was voted the number 1 first hole in the world. My pushback on that is the landing zone is a dirt road. It is a dirt road without a doubt. That's the landing zone. Sorry, but I cannot. Let me finish my take, man. I am not going to give the number 1 starting hole the number 1 spot when my landing zone is legitimately a dirt road. That's crazy to me.
If you want me to bust out my checkbook and buy 50 Christmas trees to make a bigger landing zone on hole 1, I will do that for you, Yuli.
That's not true, because when you get a Christmas tree, Brody, this is what happens. Okay, let me tell you.
Talk to me. Talk to me.
You don't go like this. You don't go, I'm gonna dig this Christmas tree up. You go rant, and then there's a stump.
So you don't like the stumps. You don't want a stump fairway.
You're telling me you're going to buy 50 things. You're just still going to lose. You're still going to leave 50 stumps. That's my new landing zone, is a 50 stump.
It could be the stump fairway. That could be like its thing, the stump fairway.
See, listen to where we're going with this. This is the argument I get in with everybody that I talk to this about is they go, yeah, but what else are you going to do? I don't know. Not have a dirt road down the middle of the fairway and not have a Christmas tree farm. It's not a disc golf course as far as the best that we play, because we play places that I feel like are actual disc golf courses. The Champions Cup is a disc golf course. It's a piece of property that a disc golf course was designed. It's a real disc golf course. Okay.
Pickard Park, the course we're playing this week.
Pickard Park is one of my. It is a disc golf course. Okay.
Yep.
I don't remember throwing down the middle of a fairway and the landing zone's a road on Pickard Park.
It's a fair point.
Not a thing. It's not a thing. Okay. There is my favorite place to play was in Yarva. There's no roads that you land on, man. It's disc golf fairways. And that's my only pushback with that is I get it. It's a beautiful hole. It has all the elements that we want. It has water, the downhill picturesque shot. It has a really tight green.
It is one of the best approach shots on tour. I will say that.
Oh, it's super fun. It's super fun until you land on the road and now you have marbles to throw on with a perfect drive, or you land just to the left of it and you have 30 Christmas tree stumps and you have to do a standstill or something. Listen, it's not a disc golf fairway. I don't care what anybody says. It's just not. We're landing on a dirt road.
So you don't like the take of making disc golf harder by throwing thousands of marbles in the fairway to where you have to throw off of marbles. You don't like that take.
Not a fan of that one. No.
Okay, you're out on marble fairways. I do agree a little bit with what Aaron is saying in the sense of a part of disc golf that I think is lacking in a lot of tournaments is the actual decision making. I think that was one of the reasons why DDO wasn't that exciting to watch this year, is removing the wind caused some of the shots not to be as you didn't have to decide, like, should I be aggressive here? Should I go for it? I do think a lot of the holes at Emporia Country Club are good holes. I think it's hard to really depict that via camera and be able to explain to people like, oh no, hole 2 is like actually a really tough drive. It's not just, I'm just going to power this hyzer and get around. It's a very tough drive. I think that's sometimes hard, but I'm with you on that. I do think sometimes Maple Hill kind of gets a little bit of an overrated view because, again, it's tough that it's not an actual disc golf course. The main reason that property exists is for the tree farm and not actually disc golf. So I'm with you on that for a little bit. Takes away a little bit of it. But I mean, hole 18, brother, hole 18 is pretty sick.
It's sick, depending on how many Christmas trees are taken every year. Now, my last thing is, listen, Maple Hill is one of the funnest places that we play. I love playing there. I always have loved playing there. It is super fun. But in my opinion, like for example, what's the best hole? What is the best hole at Country Club, do you think?
I like 17 a lot. And 8's a really good hole. 9's a really good hole.
What about 16? Do you like 16?
16's a really good hole.
16 is my favorite hole. And when I look at it, it's the most beautiful hole that's on the course, right? Can you agree? It's a disc golf hole.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's a disc golf hole. It's not a traditional golf hole that we're going down a disc golf or a golf fairway. It is an actual disc golf hole, standalone, made for disc golf.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a perspective that we have to keep in mind with your point of being like, oh, it's hard to tell what's going on this hole because of blah, 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 blah. We're throwing down a traditional golf fairway. It's going to be hard. It's not designed. We're putting a basket down a traditional golf fairway. It's going to be hard to have perspective because it's not designed for disc golf.
Yep, that's a good point.
On an actual disc golf course, you know what's going on because it's designed for the flight of a disc for that hole.
Hole 3 at Picker Park's a perfect example of that was all woods. And they're like, we're going to carve out a really cool hole on this part of the property. And last year they didn't take out enough trees. They figured out like, okay, like we didn't take out enough trees. This year they took out enough trees. I think that's a really freaking good hole now. It's like you said, really freaking good disc golf hole. So I'm on you on that. We'll let everyone go ham. Jerem, do you want to give a quick word on your take on Maple Hill?
Hello, everyone. I think you can put it down the table.
Oh, okay.
Here, look at this. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. You and I are on the same page.
Yeah, you're in.
Hey, it's good to see you, bud.
Yeah.
First time talker, long time listener.
We'll have to have you on the show.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But
okay.
This is a quick cameo.
The cameo appearance about Maple Hill. So I hear his take about making decisions. I think that we do that pretty much all season. I think most of the courses that we play are predicated around making decisions. Par 4s, par 5s are a big part of our tour. I think that it's really nice to play a course like Des Moines, like Idlewild, like Maple Hill, that are technical and execution reliant courses. Yes, it's a decision, but a lot of times the decisions are made off the tee. You're making those decisions not necessarily putting yourself in position for the next shot, but this one shot, there's so much weight and emphasis on this next throw in front of you. If you do not execute this shot, this could be a 2-stroke swing against you or for you, So I like that because I think it puts a lot of pressures on the tee shot And on our courses that we're playing mostly on tour, the pressure is mostly on the second or third shot. And I think that it's nice to have a tournament and a course that's well loved by everyone that plays it. First off, it always belongs on tour. Like, no question about it. If Maple Hill's available and we don't play it, I think it's a disservice to our sport. But I also just love seeing people struggle in the tight lines. I know that Yuli's going to, he loves the roads, man. He loves those roads going up fairways.
We did talk about the roads for a little bit.
Yeah.
We talked about the roads for a little bit.
I mean, I hear that argument. It's not beautiful. I mean, if those were grassy hills, I think Yuli would say it's one of his favorite courses. I think that's the one thing that maybe is his big knock against Maple Hill. And I understand that. But I think the shots that are actually in front of you, the shots that you have to execute, are some of the most fun and mentally captivating shots that we play for par threes on tour. And that place is special for so many reasons for me. But as a player, I love it, but also sentimentally and nostalgia, all those things really make that place special for me. So hearing Aaron say what he said last week, I was like, pump the brakes, bro, pump the brakes. But I respect his opinion. He backed it up with things that, you know, I hear where he's coming from, but we don't need that every single tournament.
That would be my only take, is I'm okay with having the occasional par 3 course or a par 3 heavy course. If you will. I don't think we necessarily need to have 4 par 5s, 8 par 4s on every course. But I think that course could use a couple extra par 4s.
Well, there was a par 5 back in the day that technically wasn't on the property. They eventually had to change that. That's now hole 12. It was 12 then as well, but that hole was really fun through the woods. It was a hole that you could eagle, but it was really challenging. But yeah, it doesn't really suit well for a par 5. Some more longer par 4s, it's hard to get that in that property. It's incredible how well they've stretched that property out. I wouldn't mess much with it. I mean, every year they try to making things a little bit more difficult. 18 is a full stroke harder than it was a couple years ago.
It's a great hole.
It's a phenomenal hole. It's a great par 4. And that's one of those decisions that really comes into play off the tee. The second shot, man, do I go for this? Do I go for the glory? There's nothing like the feeling of landing on that green, putting for birdie with that crowd behind the pin. It's a special place. So I think it's got a place on tour, and Aaron will meet a lot of angry mass holes when he gets up there this year. That's for sure. All right, that's it.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to us not having to play Masters Cup, because that was always scary for me to have to go there after talking about how bad that course was for tour. But I think there's a massive difference between Maple Hill and Masters Cup, right? Like Masters Cup, De La was a par 3 course. Every hole is par 3. Maple Hill does have some really good par 4s. Say what you want about the drive on hole 1. That second shot is really freaking good. Hole 17 is a pretty good par 4 as well. So we'll see kind of what the future is moving forward there. All right. Picks. Yuli. Picks for this week. So Steve's Nerd is on a vacation, but he said that doesn't stop me, but I do not have my spreadsheet. So he just blasted it out on a notepad, I guess. So shout out to Steve's Nerd. There is no breaks, even on vacation. Have a good time on the beach, my friend. Last week, I got 1 point from my Ricky Wysocki pick. You got 3 points for Calvin Heimberg and 1 point for Joel Freeman. Takes you back in the lead, 48-47. It's kind of nuts, Yuli, how close we are going back and forth.
I know.
Those are the names that we cannot pick for this week. I am actually in last place. So I get to pick first. And this week, let me pull this up real quick. I'm prepared with everything except for who I'm picking, because I like to also, it's kind of like fantasy football. I don't like to have like an idea of like, this is who I want to pick and this is who I want to pick, because I don't want to get sad if you pick my player. So here we go. All right. I'm going after a pretty bad performance last week. I'm playing with him on feature card. You'll actually get to commentate first round. So hopefully I do tour life justice and we do well out there. But I'm taking Gannon Burr first pick.
Man, great choice. Local kid.
Local kid.
I think he's gonna show up for his hometown.
He's gonna be hungry after not playing that well last week. All right, you get 2 picks now.
Okay. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with Matt Orm. He's just so consistent.
Dang. See, this is my problem. I wanted to pick him, and then now I feel bad because you picked him. All right, good pick, Matty O. You get one more.
And then I'm going to pick the defending champion, Simon.
Okay. And then for me to finish it off, I am going my boy Ezra. He's been playing really good in practice. And you know what? I'm going with a hot hand. I'm going to go Alden Harris.
Nice.
All right, final pick for you, Yules.
I'm going to go with...
There's a sneaky one on there. He hasn't played in the last couple of events, but he's playing this week.
Sneaky one? I just picked the sneaky one.
Maybe I'm just saying that to get in your head.
But I'm not going to pick him. I'm going to pick...
You can go Dickerson.
I'm going to pick... I am definitely going to... I'm going to pick Evan Smith. He's been playing great.
All right. James Proctor is who I was talking about. But
no, I saw right. Proctor, but... There
you have it. I've got Gannonburr, Ezra, and Yuli's got Matteo. Hey, it's fair. The proctologist does not take any offense to you not picking him, I'm sure. There you have it. Those are our picks. Yuli, you got anything else?
I don't, man. I'm ready.
I think we covered everything.
Let's have a good week, man. Let's play well, and see you guys next week.
Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. We appreciate everyone that's listening live, everyone that listens on all the audio podcast platforms as well. We appreciate all the support. We look forward to next week, and we'll see you then. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.